Yeah, it's not so easy failing.
Whether or not we're learning about surfactants, or whether or not Fe means iron, or whether or not pop filters do any good or are too close, or any number of brain thinkings that we come across.
Brain thinkings, I like that.
Yeah, we have brain thinkings from time to time.
We do.
All right.
I had a brainstorm. It was a bad one. The 30 Rock deep cut on that one.
Who said that?
Tracy Jordan.
Oh,
yeah.
Very nice.
All right. Ready to do this?
Yes.
Number 47. All right. Welcome, everyone, to episode number 47 of the Goulet Pencast, where fountain pens are still a thing. I am Brian Goulet.
And I am Drew Brown.
And we are here, still physically in the building. Yay! Our COVID
so far
transmission rate has not gone to high yet, but it's probably coming. Anyway, but we're here from Goulet Pens to deliver this casual and informal, tangential and extraneous, superfluous and extemporaneous fountain pen show, where we talk about what's going on at the Goulet Pen Company and in our fountain pen lives. In today's show, we are going to be talking about what ink that we would want to design, tips for vac filling pens, best pens with replacement nibs, famous fountain pen users, like actual famous people, celebrities, what we see as the future of fountain pens, keeping an ink log, and we're going to spotlight on the YSTUDIO Revolve. Before we get all into it, though, we're going to start out with some feedback.
Okay, we got some feedback. So last week, Brian, we talked about the king of the demonstrators.
We did.
And you know what we didn't talk about?
We didn't talk about a lot of things.
We did not know. We didn't talk about hippopotamuses or the planet Jupiter. No. But we also did not talk about the hippopotamuses? Hippopotamuses. Anyway.
Don't grab onto me. We're both in the deep end on this one.
We did.
We're both going to drown.
We didn't talk about the 823.
What about the 823?
That's like
king of the demonstrators?
Well,
okay, yeah.
I mean, it's one of the most popular demonstrators on the market.
It's gained in popularity too for the last 7 or 8 years.
We had some feedback that were like, bros.
I think that was at least worth a mention.
Yeah.
I'm a bit ashamed.
Me too.
Did not mention
Me too.
It.
So thank you for not shaming us, but reminding us.
I think the shame
politely
could be justified in that.
It could have, but they didn't. They're like
okay.
dudes.
So it was a constructive suggestion.
It was. Okay. Thank you.
Well, it's worthy.
Also, this was not in the YouTube comments, but a couple weeks ago, I was
curious about this bullet point.
Well, see, sometimes I put notes in here that I don't want you to know about because I want your actual reaction. So I just I'm cryptic.
It just says rickshaw face.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know what I'm talking about.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Objective
but I'm curious.
Achieved. Okay, so I put on our Instagrams a quiz because it was a picture of me after I did that case video about pen cases.
Yeah.
And in it, I put a rickshaw roll on my face because it was super cozy.
Okay.
And it was one of yours. Don't worry, it's not going to be sold.
That's fine.
So
it's increased in value in my mind.
Absolutely. So I asked, it was a poll. I was like, have you ever put a rickshaw pen case on your face? Plush side first, obviously. Yes, no, or haven't had the chance, but I totally would. And as you can see, 15% said yes, 36% said no, 49% says never had the opportunity, but I totally would.
Hey.
So the yeses were 58 people, not a lot, but still, I want all.
That's a lot of people for such a random request.
I wanted to mention that because I just picture a room of 58 people all looking at me like.
Yes, I have rubbed that on my face.
Right? I just feel like if I were in a room with those people, we could all look at each other and be like, I know, man.
That's a weird room.
Me too.
That's a weird room.
Me too. No, it is the greatest room ever.
What would the vibe be like in that room? I don't know.
Lots of hugs.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I love that. That made me really happy. But also, I will say, when I wrote the quiz, the never had the opportunity, but I totally would was too long. So it said never had the opportunity, but I totally. So I'm thinking that they knew what that was, right? That counts. That counts. So the majority approved of putting rickshaw royal plush lining upon your face.
Yeah, I can think of worse things on my face.
There we go. Me too. Anyway, I also
random quote out of context.
Right, exactly.
That you could pull. Yeah,
I love that. Also, I spoke to some very, very nice people from Michigan all over the YouTubes. and
Some
they were
Sheboyganites.
well, no, Sheboyganites.
Sheboyganites.
It's pronounced the same.
Really?
Yes, I was getting all sensitive because I did not want to
Okay.
disrespect the mitten, but I was informed that it's actually Sheboygan and Sheboygan, Wisconsin and Michigan, same place.
Okay.
But you know what I really loved? There was a lot of Michigan love in the comments. A lot of
Yeah?
people were like, "Hey, I'm from Michigan." Yeah, yo, me too. And it's just like a lot of Michigan pride in the comments. I'm like, this
There you
is
go.
unexpected but delightful.
Okay. Very encouraging group there.
I really
That's
liked
awesome.
that.
That's
Yeah.
really cool to
So,
see.
RoboCop country.
There you go. Apparently. Yeah, we got some other feedback. One, there's a surprising number of pen friends, as we'll call them, who also see the value in purchasing multiples of the same item. We were talking about how
Like your cars.
Rachel and I purchased multiples of the same car, even two of the same car in one case. So we're not alone. We're not alone in that. Hey, if you know what you want, then just why keep looking?
I mean, I've purchased I have a lot of Converse shoes, but never the same exact. Well, the black ones, I guess. I've had multiple pairs of the black ones, but as far as I've never had two of the same shirts.
No?
No, never two of the same exact pants. So I don't know. I don't know.
I own multiples. I think of every article of clothing for whatever the favorite thing is of that clothing. I own multiples of that.
I
thing.
remember when we were in the garage when I first got hired. This was 10 plus years ago.
Oh boy.
You had that multi-pack of sunglasses.
Oh yeah.
Do you remember that? It was like something you'd find at like the Dollar General. It was like
I think it was like Sam's Club or
right,
something.
but there was like there
Like
was
a 12 pack of sunglasses. I believe it was for
basically-
$24.
Basically, wow.
Yeah, right? $2 a pair?
No, I'm just surprised you remember that.
I remember
But they
very
were
oddly specific
They were
things.
the single lens
yeah.
sunglasses. I think the frames might have been different colors, but
Yeah, they were like sport style,
but
I
still,
guess,
like you saw,
know.
like, hey, I can get 12 sunglasses. Like,
Yeah.
it was very practical.
Yeah, because I lose them and break them constantly.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I think your
Because-
dad at one point had like multiple just plain hats. You remember that? Like he bought
yeah.
multi-pack of just plain hats.
Yeah, his business, like the color was red, so he had like red hats. This was before the Trump era and
Right,
all that.
but it
Before he
was
got
the-
co-opted
yeah.
kind of for that.
But yeah,
But,
just
yeah.
plain hats. I was like, all right, apple, not far from the tree there.
It's just a utilitarian thing. Yeah, I really, the
I respect that. I like that.
The whole uniform thing. I don't know. I'm really thinking about it. Maybe when I approach 40, maybe 40 will be
I'm
like,
excited to see.
Yeah, I think this is it.
I'm excited to
This
see.
is all you're going to get, people, from now on. Anyway, onto a little bit more serious topic. We got some feedback from the YouTube video last week, the Pencast, not surprisingly, I think, about why we didn't dive into the whole situation behind why all of our Noodlers ink is out of stock at the moment. So it probably seems like a really juicy topic. It's actually somewhat straightforward. We're not going to get all into it, but we'll at least kind of catch you up to speed, I guess. So the current situation is that Nathan over at Noodlers, a lot of people think of Noodlers as like this large company. It's basically Nathan. He might have had some help here and there a little bit. I don't know. It's a bit of a Willy Wonka type situation.
Part-time stuff, but yeah, it's one guy.
It's basically Nathan. So he's undergoing basically this unprecedented reevaluation of the brand, his entire product line, based on feedback from the community, from members of the community around the theming of a number of different pens and inks. He's been receptive to this, and even though it's stirred up some like controversy recently, I think it's something that's been in conversation for a little bit, and it really just kind of, it really sunk in.
Reached a crescendo.
A crescendo.
Yeah.
That would be a good way to put it. Nathan's chosen to revisit a bunch of ink names and label artwork. During this time, while he does this, we've chosen to zero out our stock and just pause. We've left everything up on the site because we basically don't know what's going to happen next. So we're kind of in a holding pattern. So we pause promotion of the brand as well until Noodlers has really completed these rebranding efforts. And so just a very current update as of right now, we know that at least 30 different products are going through the name and label changes. This is after about 2 weeks. So this is honestly a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, I was surprised.
Yeah, so we're not really central to it. I mean, we had conversations with the distributor and with Nathan like leading up to it as it was unfolding, but really it's Nathan's thing. He's really owned it. He's really the one making all the decisions about how it's happening. So we're kind of waiting and seeing what happens, just like the pen world is.
Yeah.
We got this email just like literally hours before recording this on Tuesday. So we're going to be evaluating this list very soon. Not sure exactly which direction it's going to go, but once Nathan's resettled on all of his rebranding, we're going to be looking forward to seeing just basically what kind of progress happens and providing you all with some more of an update. So basically, we're just kind of telling you to stay tuned. So we know this all feels really weird. It's not something like this has really happened specifically in this way in the pen world. It's really uncomfortable for everybody, including us. But, we're just kind of sitting in that discomfort right now. We're waiting to see what happens. And we're just really grateful for everybody that's been patient with us through this, having constructive conversations. A lot of good things are coming out of the conversation. A lot of challenging things have been brought up as well.
Learning opportunities abound.
Yeah, but it's not over. It's an evolving thing. So just hang in there, and we'll kind of stay in the mix and see how it unfolds.
There we go.
So that's basically the update we have as of right now. So, sorry if it felt a little weird not talking about it last week. Honestly, we debated about it. Drew was a little more for it. I was a little, there were a lot of like harsh things that were brought up personally for me and Rachel. It was a little raw.
Yeah.
So we weren't like eager to like stir all that back up. But there's been a little time for healing and stuff like that. So we felt a little more comfortable kind of speaking on it. Yep. We're not trying to hide anything, but it's literally just, it's been a hot topic.
We're learning, and we will continue to gain information. And
it's all humans. This whole pen world, we're all very human and very flawed and willing to learn. So didn't want to dwell on it too much. Didn't want it to take over the whole Pencast, but definitely thought it was worth noting for this week. So thank you for being patient.
It's something that's going on.
Absolutely. Speaking of things that are going on, we're going to move on to our new segment of new stuff. All right, so I got a couple things to mention, both pens for me on this point. Edison has a new color of the Collier. The Collier is one of the more popular Edison pens, even though it doesn't post. That is always, like you and I are like more post forward, I would say.
Yeah.
We tend to lean towards posting our pens,
yes.
right? It's not like a deal breaker for us. I don't know, something about pens that like just don't even give you the option. I'm just like, I don't know how I feel about that. But
it's so popular. People love it. And
really
the reason I think it's so popular is because it is a larger pen.
It is.
And with really good materials, it's just a bigger canvas to show off really nice acrylic.
That's true. Visually, it's a very stunning pen.
Yeah,
and
I think that
the proportions are nice. It doesn't look, it's a large pen, but it doesn't look like a fat pen. You know what I mean?
Really.
Sometimes they can.
And I have seen pens in like that same acrylic used in a Collier, and then I'll see it on some like Conklin or something like that.
Yeah,
and it looks better on the Collier.
Yeah.
Same stuff, but I really do think that the larger canvas,
it makes a difference.
Maybe it's a little thicker. I don't know, but it does make the acrylic look really nice.
I think it's the depth of material. I think the fact that Edison uses such minimal hardware. So there's no center band, there's no finials. It's literally just the clip and the nib. That's the only hardware on this pen. So the material's not broken up. So it's just continuous throughout. And then I think this is a bigger pen, so it's a larger canvas for the material.
Right.
But also they can make it thicker, so you see more depth of the material as well. So I think you've got a couple of things going for you on these Colliers. They all really end up looking pretty stunning. They're a great canvas for these materials.
And the Azure Skies is very chatoyancy.
Oh, yes, it is.
Chatoyorific.
And it's blue, which of course is like going to be right in line with some of my favorites. Very cool. It's got that swirly color. It's like a blue and black, sort of like a deep blue and a sort of a black swirl. Not like a ribbon swirl.
It's a darker, kind of a navy-ish blue going on.
Yeah.
It's not really there's no like black swirl in it, but it definitely has a.
Yeah, I guess maybe I don't know.
It
if
has
I'm
a
using
dark.
the right words to describe
it has a darkness to it.
Yeah,
for sure. I can see that.
Like Batman, you can tell it has darkness looming, darkness in its veins. You know what? Maybe I'm overemphasizing the black. I don't think it's quite as black. It really is more of a true kind of a blue. I don't even know if I would call it navy. What would you call this color, Drew?
It's almost a denim.
Denim. It's got a little bit of turquoise to it.
Yeah. The thing about these pens, and if you'll look on our website, sometimes the pen will look like it pops with a pearlescence, and then sometimes it'll look very like flat or dull, and that's just the nature of the material. If you rotate it, you're going to see both. So it's neither super crazy nor super flat. It is all of those things all at once.
Yeah.
And it can be a little deceptive, which is why we try to photograph it each way. So scroll through all of the images and get a good
and it's
idea.
It's going to vary from pen to pen. So I think like the chatoyance that's in there itself is sort of a ribbon that goes throughout the pen. Like we see this a lot with like the layered resins, where you turn it one direction and it just like explodes in the light, and then you turn it the other way and you're like, I see nothing. It's like,
but you won't get a pen that looks dull. Like that's not going to happen, and you won't get one that looks totally shimmery everywhere.
Yeah, it's just where that happens to fall will be different on every pen.
Yep, but you'll get it. You'll get it.
Super attractive pen, very attractive material, great quality control in Edison, made in Ohio. So that's pretty cool. And then the other pen that I had to talk about was a Peniter pen. This is, if you're familiar with the limited editions they did, the Trilogy series, this is kind of based off one of those. So I think it was based off the Titanium.
It was the tribute to Armand.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-pen set.
Yeah, 3-pen set. And they had 3 different like cutout kind of designs. So all, I guess you'd call them like skeleton designs, where you can like literally see through the pen.
Yeah, maybe. I've often heard skeleton as more in terms of an overlay.
I think it's the same concept.
Same concept. Like this is unique because it is all the way through, and like you can actually touch that internal filler. Like there's no window. Well, it kind of goes to what we were talking about last time.
Is it a window? What makes it a window?
Right. Is it a hole? Is a hole a window? Yeah, maybe.
This pen will raise that question up in your mind.
Lots of cuts though. Lots of potential windows.
Very cool. Very cool. So this one is called black aluminum. So it's got that same design that the titanium one had, but it's a very stealthed out looking pen. So it's definitely in that like collector grade. It's about $1,600 in our store. So it's it's an investment in your own pen collection for sure. But it's a really cool pen. It's got that nib that you love.
It's the most beautiful nib in the industry right now.
I don't know that I have one of those pens with a black nib.
I don't have one at all, but I still think it's lovely.
Yeah, true. But anyway, so very cool pen. Go check it out. And then Drew, you got some.
Yeah, we've got some cool stuff to talk about. So I've been teasing the nib.
You gave me all the really expensive stuff. Make me seem like some kind of like, swanky pen collector.
I have some things to say about these. Okay. So I gave me the ones that I can say some stuff about.
You had more of a hand in these.
First thing, so we worked with Hey Matthew on Instagram, Matthew Morris. He designed a nib chameleon sticker for us, so I can finally say it's Hey Matthew, who we love. We've known him for a long time. He's a great guy. Happy to call him.
Very active in the pen community.
Yeah, happy to call him a pen friend.
So many pen shows, yeah.
Fantastic dude. And his art is just so much fun.
So cool.
So fun. And he drew the best chameleon, and it translated to a sticker format perfectly. There's a ton of great details. So it is a chameleon on a pen, and if you are someone who can enjoy a wide variety of nib sizes, you're a nib chameleon, and you owe it to yourself to pick one of these up, I think, just so that you can self-actualize a little bit. But we have it available.
That's a bit of a promise.
Well, I'm saying like no,
self-actualize a little bit.
Know thyself. If you're a nib chameleon, you need to brandish that.
There you go.
So check it out. It's finally here. Thank you for your patience. And then I need to talk about the Esterbrook Patience the Tortoise pen holder, Brian.
Yes, you have some explaining to do on this one, Drew.
Okay, all right. So it's a new product. It is a brass
object. Paperweight.
I see
pen
here,
holder. It's a pen holder.
It is a pen holder. So it's got 3 lines of cutouts. You can kind of rest your pen. Three pens.
Pen rests. Yeah,
it's a pen rest.
That'd be a good way to say it.
It's also a little scoop out. So if you didn't want to do pens, if you wanted to do paper clips or something like that, you could do that as well. It is a desk accessory.
Why not do both?
It is supposed to.
You can put paper clips underneath your pens.
There you go. You could.
You can have it all.
Keep it shallow enough. Now I'm hesitant to call it an animal because I guess you could call it a herpa. What is the word?
Are you going nerd out on me here?
Yeah, it's a herpa something.
Herpa something. What are you talking about?
I know.
I think I'm lost.
Herpetology is like the study, but I don't know what you call it. Anyway, my thing, Brian, is it is called the tortoise.
Okay.
But it's a sea turtle. It's not a tortoise.
Tortoise is like a different thing, right?
Right.
Is it like an alligator crocodile type situation?
Yeah, kind of. But it's a sea turtle because it has fins, not legs. Yeah. You can very clearly see this, but it's called Patience the Tortoise, but it's not. It's a sea turtle, mate. Like on Pirates of the Caribbean.
Remember? A sea tortoise?
Sea turtles. Remember that part when he escapes on the sea turtle? It's a story. Anyway.
What are you talking about?
Nothing. I'm just rambling.
I'm so lost right now.
I have a habit of just talking with my brain. Anyway, it is some sort of turtle that you can hold your pens. It still looks really cool, regardless of what sort of
very
herp
cool
it
looking.
is.
If you can get past the fact that it may not be the most, what's the name? What do you call a scientific name? Like
We need to stop
I
saying things at all. Genus
I
class.
do
phylum.
I do read up and study on this stuff, but then when I need to recall it, my brain is like,
Oh no.
nope,
Yeah.
nope, not gonna recall that.
Yeah,
I know
no,
what
we're not-
word you
we're not-
want right now, but
we're
I'm
not
just gonna
good at
hang
that.
on to that. I'm just gonna hang on to it. I'll give you this other word that has nothing to do with it though.
Either way, I like it. It looks cool. It's neat. It's a herp of some kind.
I still don't know what you're talking about with the herp thing. Somebody in the comments, maybe they'll
My brother
help
would
me
know.
out.
My brother would know. He's gonna
Yeah?
shame me for that. Yeah.
Maybe you have to grow up around you to know what the heck you're talking about.
Yeah.
You think I would come close, but no, I'm lost on this one. Oh, also, this is episode 47, Drew. Literally, it was in the comments. I was told something about like, yes, 47 means different things in the nerd world. That's about all the context that I got. So apparently 47 means something.
Okay.
They might have also said something else more specifically, but I forgot it. Anyway, that's all we got for new stuff. Are you looking it up?
Now, herpetology is the branch of zoology concerned with the study of amphibians and reptiles.
Okay. They're amphibians.
Right, but I wanted to say that they were a herp of something, and I don't know if I can do that.
Well, herpetology is a study of what is it? What's the term?
It's a herpetology.
Herpetology.
Right,
Okay.
but I wanted to call the turtle tortoise. They're both herpetar, but I think I might just be wrong. They might.
Herpetals?
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm looking for.
Well, I guess if you have like, if plants is like botanical, do you call them like botanics?
I don't know.
We are way outside of our depth, and this has nothing to do with pens. So
Yeah.
we're gonna move
All right.
on to Q&A.
I'm ready.
Go ahead, Drew.
Would you like
I
a
really
question?
hope we know what we're talking about more in this section than we
All
have
right.
leading up to
Well,
it.
this one we don't need to know anything for this one. This one's purely subjective.
Oh gosh, I know. I saw this one and I was like, oh crap.
Because you love subjective questions that rely on you to just kind of ideate. Anyway, we have a question from Hugo Burden, and Hugo asks, if you were to design/create an ink, what color and what properties would it have? Will it have? Will it meaning you are going to create it?
I know this question was very assumptive. I was immediately just like, are people going to view my answering this question as an announcement of some ink that we're developing? Because that is not the case.
I like to think that people sometimes ask questions knowing that you're going to have a hard time.
They're going to
with
put me
them.
on the spot. I feel like
Yeah.
that's becoming more of a thing.
I'm fine with that.
As we're going along in this Pencast, I feel like there's certain things that like Brian can't make a decision. He can't answer anything quickly.
You made this bed, Mr. Goulet.
I guess I'm having a mirror held up to me, and I'm having to accept what I truly am, which is an indecisive rambler. But that's okay. As long as it's entertaining to you all, then great.
Speaking of, how about the question?
I did think that it was a good question.
Okay.
Legitimately, I thought it was a good question. It's tough because there's a lot of really good inks out there. No, legitimately.
Okay.
Because where my mind immediately goes is like, where's the hole? Like, what's missing? What's missing
We're not.
in the ink world? Because that's where I want to. That's my whole life. I've always been like, here's what everybody's doing. What's nobody else doing?
But what do you
Right?
want?
I don't.
As an ink user, as a fountain pen aficionado, what do you want?
I haven't had like a burning.
Stop thinking like a
desire
business
to
owner.
Well, that's how I find that motivation. That's how I get to like, what do I see is like, what is nobody else really doing, or like what's cool in some tangential world or industry that could like cross over into the pen world that hasn't really been done. That's immediately where it goes for me. Not like,
Okay.
oh, I'd like to make the 15th plain black ink.
I can see how
with
that
no
could
shading.
inspire you, but
Yeah.
all right, where did it lead?
We've gotten to see ink evolve a little bit over time. We got to see the rise of shimmering ink. That was a big thing.
We did.
And sheen is something that has been around for a little while, but has never been necessarily like fully embraced until, last 5+ years, maybe. It's hard to get sheen out of different inks because of the dye properties. So it's not something that can be as widely produced in as much a color range as like shimmer can, for example. And I feel like multi-tonal inks, they're scratching that same itch. They're having their moment right now where it's like, it feels novel, just like shimmering inks did a few years ago, or like some of the heavy sheeners, like organic
definitely
studio
an ink
nitrogen
trend.
and stuff like that. And I think that's really cool. I would love to non-committal, no commitment here, but I would love to like see that progress and see where that can go. I also know that multitonal inks will have their limits, just like sheen does. You can't just like add something to it to make it multitonal. It's going to be the property of the specific dye mixes and stuff. So that's why you only see multitonal inks within that kind of like grayish, greenish, pinkish range. So I don't feel like we're going to really see this explosion of multitonal inks because I just don't know that the dye properties are really there to make it happen. But if we're dreaming,
yes,
I would love to see multitonal, multicolored inks of like very like saturated in color, very bright, very contrasting colors.
Okay, so if you were to design an ink,
I don't know that it can be designed. I think
it's
possible
a hypothetical,
right now.
Brian.
Okay, fair enough.
What ink are you going to create? You can create any ink you want. What's it going to look like? What are the properties going to be?
I think it would be cool to have like a multitonal, like a color shifting type ink. Think of like candy paint on a car.
Oh, okay. So like a
not necessarily shimmer, you know, because shimmer is like a particulate.
So you're thinking of like a rainbow ink, like an iridium, like
like a PVD iridium, like rainbow type pen.
So basically like
something
100%,
like that, but with ink. Would look really cool. Like you look at it in one angle, it's blue, and it shifts to like a pink and a purple.
Okay,
and there you go. Depending on the light, that seems really cool.
Okay, I like that.
Or like a one, you know, I think about like the I don't know. There's like Rachel and I, like we found a pencil one time that has like multicolored lead in the pencil, like in the same piece of lead. It was it was like a stripy. So as you're writing with it, it's like changing
crayons like
colors.
That when we were kids.
Yeah, something like that. But if ink could do that, so or like an ombre, like when you have the Pilot Parallels, right? And you can like touch the tips together, and you get like that. If you could, I don't know, do something with that. Yeah, have an ink that can do that somehow.
I think that'd be more about like a mechanism within the barrel of the pen.
Yeah, maybe
that, like, you know, kind of like an epoxy or something where it has like two channels,
maybe,
but then they kind of meet at the end, something like that.
Or maybe like an ink. I'm just really pulling this out of my brain now. But I think like if you had an ink that, you know, think about like when you have ink that's different saturation, right? Like a lightly saturated ink and you're writing with it with a really wet pen, and you get heavy shading and pooling and stuff like that. You know how it can like sort of look, you know, like a darker color within kind of the same range.
Yeah.
But if you could have something that like when it's really heavily pooled like that, if it could be like an actual different color, like you have like a gradient of color. So there would be like some kind of threshold in there where it would have to, you know, but it's sort of like you get that a little bit with shimmer. It's like if you have it really light down, you can't necessarily see as much shimmer, but then when you really dump it on, you really see it. Sheen gets like that too. But so if you had something like that wasn't shimmer or sheen, but just more like a multi-tonal kind of effect that changed with how much ink you put down.
And it would flow better too.
Yeah, so you didn't have any particulate or anything like that. That's what I would want to see.
There we go.
No, I mean, I could see like a range of colors. I'm envisioning like a whole ink line of that, not just one specific color. But, you know, certainly among my favorite colors, and like the blues, purples, turquoises, hot pinks, like that color, you know, like literally everything you're seeing in all of our branding. That would be really cool. I also love ink that shades a lot. So, you know, I think if we were going to like do more inks and stuff like that, I would want to lean into that because I've never fallen out of love with heavy shading inks. Yeah. I think it's just one of the beautiful properties that you get with fountain pen ink that you really can't get with any other type of writing instrument. You know, you can get roller balls that write pretty smooth. You can get like the Pilot Precise that uses a liquid ink, but it's with a roller ball. So it's like a pretty good compromise, but you're not getting that awesome shading.
That's a great point. I love that.
So, and that like from the first fountain pen I ever used, I was like, I've never seen anything like this before, and it has never gotten old. Every time, literally the next pen I use, if I see shading, I'll be like,
right? I'm with you.
It's liking that.
That's a fountain pen. Like you can't reproduce that with anything other than a fountain pen.
I feel like that's
really cool.
A whole line of like heavy shaders would be cool.
I like that a lot.
And I don't think it's really been done. Like it hasn't really been like, no one's really done that and embraced that.
Not intentionally. It's not like these are shaders, you know.
Yeah, like there are some that are good shaders, but never as like. I mean, you have other ones where I don't know.
Like people have done like, hey, this is a set like of
shimmering inks, or
this is a set of, you know,
like waterproof inks or whatever. You know, there have been other inks that have been grouped by property. Never seen anything grouped by property based on its shading capabilities. So we could be onto something.
We still haven't done a Goulet ink, Brian.
We're like
It's time.
We may have some proactive like ink maker that's going to watch this. There are several of them because they're, you don't have to make ink in gigantic
We
batches,
can call
so
it
you can be
shady
pretty nimble.
business.
Shady business, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe next week somebody will come out with one. They'll be like, "That is a great idea. We're gonna run with that." Honestly, I wouldn't hate that. You can have this idea for free if we don't develop it first, which we're not because this is a hypothetical question and I'm not committing to it. I have a hard time turning that part of my brain off, though. I mean, literally, when I'm asked a question like this, I'm like, how do I make this happen? But anyway, it was a fun exercise, and now I'm glad
I'm
it off to Drew.
I'm glad I'm not proactive and ambitious.
This is everything in my life, Drew. Everything in my life. This is how my brain works. It is a blessing and a curse.
I'd be so sleepy all the time.
I am sleepy all the time. This is why I have bags under my eyes, Drew. Because everything, I'm like, I could make this into a project.
Oh my God.
I should do this, all of this now.
Oh, I'm so sorry. But thank you. I'm glad you are who you are because I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be gainfully employed. But, also, I'm sorry.
Just a little bit of self-actualization is all you need.
There we go. A little bit of self-actualization.
Just a little bit.
When I was a kid, Brian, I had a double-sided magic marker.
Okay.
And it was a collection of magic markers that had a color on one side and then a white marker on the other side. And whenever you would flip it over and draw with the white part on what you already used, it would change colors.
I remember this.
And my favorite one was a black marker. I would draw black. Okay. And if you flipped it around, uncapped the other side and used the white part, it would turn whatever you drew on to hot pink.
I remember this.
You had one of those?
Yeah. Oh, I remember this.
And so all through my childhood, black and hot pink were like my favorite colors.
It's a good combo.
Oh, yeah, right?
It's so striking. It's such contrast. Yeah.
And I know since this is a total hypothetical, this wouldn't work because they're two contrasting colors. You wouldn't be able to get a black and hot pink ink. But you know what? I'm just going to put it out there. If I could have any ink I wanted, it would be like a black ink with a hot pink halo around it.
That would be cool.
I just think that would be super rad. Now, I don't think it would work with a hot pink ink with a black halo because I think the black would take over.
True. This is hypothetical here. You can dream big, man.
Either way, I don't care. If it had black and hot pink together in it and it didn't like mush together and it just like dried as like a halo effect on a black ink, oh man, that would be so rad.
That'd be pretty cool.
It reminds me of like D.
I think you say it's rad. Like you're literally going back into the 90s
Well, what I'm thinking of is D. Snyder's from Twisted Sister. I'm thinking of like his hot pink and black outfit from like We're Not Gonna Take It. You know, he had these like football pads with like black and hot pink streamers all over it. Like that's, I don't know. D. Snyder outfit ink. Sure.
There you go.
Let's go with that. Or magic marker ink, however you want to slice it. But that would be my jam. And also ideally I'd love to have a shimmer ink that doesn't clog because I love shimmer inks. I wish I could use more, but I just need it to stay in suspension forever. Like Orbit's or Orbit's drink. Remember those things?
I do. Those would not flow well in your pen, though.
Well, they figured out how to do it. If they can make the Orbit's balls float in that drink, why not shimmer? Come on, get the Orbit's people over there working for.
They don't still make Orbit's, right?
No, they don't.
Yeah,
they don't.
It doesn't seem like.
But I bet you the Orbit's people are out there somewhere. Get private reserve to hire them or somebody, and
you could probably buy a case of Orbit's on eBay for like $50 or something.
Probably.
How old would that be? When did Orbit's go out of production?
I don't know.
It's probably like 98 or something. It's
probably
been
around
out for a while.
No, I feel like I don't know, maybe around the same time as Fruitopia.
I remember Fruitopia.
Yeah, they had a strong presence in the late 90s.
I feel like there was a lot of really undrinkable looking drinks that became
for sure
a thing in the 90s.
Oh, for sure. I remember they had Arizona pina coladas.
Orbit's. It's like a hotel.
No, not those.
Site. What do you call Orbit's drink? Here we go.
Here we go.
All right, we're gonna find it.
Yeah, there they are.
Discontinued 98. I was right.
Oh,
nailed it. Drew, was introduced in 97. Discontinued in 98. That did not. That did.
Some of the best.
No one liked this drink.
Some of the best things were only one season, Brian.
Well,
Bucky O'Hare, Brave Star.
I don't know if it was best. Bucky O'Hare was nostalgic, but I don't remember anything about it other than it was something as a kid.
Brave Star was
no one
excellent.
knows what it is. I don't know about Brave Star. I'll trust you on that one.
Eyes of the Hawk, Ears of the Wolf, Strength of the Bear, Speed of the Puma. Just saying.
I love how both of us can remember the most obscure and unhelpful things.
Absolutely.
But yet we can't remember like very important intentional details of what we're actually trying to talk about.
Heavens no. Let's move on to another question since we're still talking about question one. Sorry, Hugo.
Okay, well, we'll go on to question number 2. KC2 NPU. Tips for using / caring for Vac Fillers. i.e. how to handle pens that stop writing, flood feed. Interpret from that what you will, Drew. There's a lot in there.
I'm going to take out of that how to handle pens that stop writing. So a vac filler that stops writing.
Yeah.
The most common cause of this is that you no longer have flow from the ink chamber to the nib.
Yeah.
That's number one thing with vac fillers. If you have a vac filler and it just stops writing, take that piston knob, unscrew it to kind of loosen
you don't have to pull it all the way back.
No.
You're not like filling it again.
No.
Yeah.
Just about all vac fillers seal off the grip section from the ink reservoir when you have that knob tightened all the way down.
Now, why is that, Drew? Why would they design it that way?
You know what? They don't have to, but it does provide a benefit. Well, I don't know. Some say it provides a benefit to seal off the chamber. If you wanted to kind of like tip it upside down, whoop, pop. If you wanted to tip it upside down, let the ink fall back into the main chamber, seal it back up, you would then no longer have ink into the grip section, feed, whatnot, so that you would have any sort of pressure-related burpitude minimized. Like you would not have burpitude. Yeah, ink burps, pressure-related ink spritzifications. Honestly, if you flew
is
with
that like an issue? Is that really an issue?
That's my thing. I don't think it's that big of an issue, but it's a thing. Vac fillers do it.
I have thoughts.
Well, you've flown plenty of times, and you've not had any sort of
Okay, well, here's the
major issues with those.
True. Well, I always keep mine like sealed, so they're always doing their intended sealing off purpose when I fly with a vac filler. So, as far as I know, it's doing its job.
Right, but
if it wasn't, if that seal wasn't there, would it be a problem?
You've flown with piston fillers too, and they haven't had an issue. I've flown with my Lamy 2000 plenty of times.
So the thing I'll say about that is, it's not like, I think, and we get this, it's so funny how we still continue to get this question on a pretty regular basis, despite having made many videos about it.
Well, he's not asking about flying.
True. That's right. We're completely deviated from his original question, but it's related, right? So they seal off that ink chamber because there is a significantly higher ink capacity in these vac fillers, most of them, than there are in even your bigger piston filling pens. So an argument can certainly be made for the fact that you are increasing the likelihood of ink instability, I'll call it.
Yeah.
Whether it's writing or traveling, even driving in a car, if you live in an area with a lot of mountains and stuff like that, changing elevation, to any large degree within a short period of time can change the pressure, which can cause your ink to be unstable and leak. So I think that there is a case to be made for that on a pen that has like above a 2 milliliter.
Yeah. They wouldn't do it for no reason.
Right.
I'm sure there's a reason for it, but it is super common. And if you have that knob screwed all the way down, you're basically just using what's already in your feed. Sometimes you have like an extra chamber beyond the feed, between like the main chamber and the feed.
Yeah.
If you've got a Visconti double reservoir power filler, that's what they do. They've got a little bonus zone, but a lot of the times it seals off directly behind the feed. So all you're writing with is what's in the feed, which is not.
It's not
like,
a small amount of ink.
Right.
It's about a cartridge, a standard international cartridge worth like half a mil.
It's a surprisingly large amount of ink can fit in a feed.
So you can write quite a bit, So it's not like every time you use the pen, you have to unscrew the back of that knob either. Essentially, think of it as like it's a reservoir tank. And it's a pretty large reservoir tank, but you have your single cartridges worth of ink that you're writing with. And then when that starts to run dry, you open that knob back up, get more ink down in there. Now, if you write it and it's like bone dry, then you have
probably
to kind
all
of get
empty.
it started again. Well, even a pen like, most of the vac fillers I'm thinking of are demonstrators. So it's pretty easy to see, like the king of demonstrators that was pointed out to us here, the 823. You can see when there's ink in there. And if it's running dry, you could be out of just the ink in the front section there. You just need to open up the back, let more ink go down. It might take a second for it to work down through if you've like written bone dry, that grip section, right? But then once the ink flows down through, you can screw that knob back down and you're good to go for another like cartridges worth of writing, which
Or you can just write
many
with
pages.
or we can just write with the knob unscrewed. Every time you want to write, unscrew the knob, and you don't have to worry about anything.
You can also do that.
Sometimes I find that the opened up knob can feel a little sharp on my grip.
Yeah.
Like right on my palm right here. Especially with the Vac 700. Those are kind
that
of
one's
sharp.
a little sharper.
The 823 less so,
but still.
So you can do that. That's certainly a solution, but it's super common for people to get a Vac filler, especially with ever since the 700 came out. That's a very
accessible,
right. It's a very accessible, affordable vac filling pen, and there is some information in there. But if you don't look at the information, you're not going to know that it's pretty much sealed up once you screw it down.
Yeah,
so
that's true. I think the likelihood of somebody getting one of those pens and inadvertently having it dry up on them because they don't know about that knob thing and they're not undoing that when they write is significantly greater than the chance of taking a pen on a plane and having it leak because it doesn't have that filling thing in there. Now, I will say there are a couple of pens where you can actually remove, if you're into hacking territory here, you can actually remove the seal that blocks the ink chamber from, not the seal that actually fills the pen, because the ink flows around that bigger seal.
Right.
But there's sometimes a secondary seal.
Yeah, if you have an older Vac 700.
They redesigned it so it doesn't have that second seal. So you can't do it on the Vac 700 anymore.
Not the new one, yeah. If you have an older one, you can.
Can you do it on the Vac Mini? Or did they redesign that one too? I'm trying to remember.
They redesigned it.
They redesigned that one too?
Yeah. I want to say they redesigned that one first.
Maybe they did. That one's not as nearly as a popular pen, even though I think it doesn't get enough love. Yeah. But I know you can do it on the 823. Be careful. Pilot's pretty particular about modification of their pens at all.
Oh, yeah.
Do it at your own risk.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's a big reason why I think it can write dry.
Yep.
So what do you do about it, Drew? Is it literally just undo that knob and then you're good to go?
Generally, yes. If you're operating the knob as you should and you're still experiencing, drying out, you're probably not using a Vac 700 because they seal really well. You're probably not using an 823 because they also seal really well.
I'm trying to think of like a Vac that doesn't seal well around the nib.
None, because
they're all pretty well
They're all
sealed.
really good. Like even even the Visconti Homo sapiens, they've got their they don't advertise it. Platinum advertises a slip and seal inner cap, which is a spring-loaded inner cap that really compresses the grip section to make sure you get a nice seal. Visconti has the same thing. There's a spring-loaded inner cap in those bad boys, so that if you've got a hook-safe lock system, usually found on either your Homo sapiens, your Operas, Opera Masters, that's essentially what you're doing. When it kind of clicks in, you go over the hook and pops in. That's the spring pushing an inner cap down on there. So those seal really well too. So
the design's a little different because I believe the Platinum one is patented and all that.
Yeah, it is.
But
they've got a hook-safe system. But so it shouldn't be happening all that much. I'd say that there's a 90% chance if you're running into issues with your Vac pen, it's because of that seal. So in some way related to that seal.
So I'll take this in a slightly different direction. I mean, I think it's cool. Everything we've covered here, it all makes sense. I didn't view it so much as like, what about the Vac filler is causing it to stop writing, which is kind of what we've covered so far. It's more like, hey, just like any fountain pen, like I haven't cleaned it enough or I let it sitting out too long or whatever, and it's not writing enough. How do you get it going again? Because like if you have a piston or a cartridge converter or, a converter, you can just like twist the piston a little bit, let a little ink down to flood the feed because he says flood feed at the end here. So I'm thinking like, basically like, I don't really care how it got there. How do I get it going again?
Right.
So I think, yes, unscrewing the knob and all that, getting ink down to it, that's obviously really important. But still, what if it's just a little clogged? What if you got something going on there? So I think then you're basically into some of the principles of like, well, with any pen,
standard pen maintenance.
Yeah, you might need to flush and clean it, but if it's, filled with, 3 mils of ink of something that is precious to you, you may not want to do that. You can try dipping the nib in water. Sometimes if you have ink, especially if you have a pen that's been left out for a while or maybe hasn't been maintained properly, which I have a lot of experience with that maybe Drew doesn't, sometimes that ink can dry out a little bit. The water evaporates out of the ink and leaves the dye behind. And that just kind of becomes, I don't want to say sludgy, but it could be, it's a thicker, less flowy substance that's left in your feed. And sometimes just dipping that in water, a few times, using a paper towel to kind of like draw that through a little bit can sort of reconstitute it. And you don't have to do a full flushing and cleaning, but just getting it wet again can sometimes be enough to kind of get it going. So that might be something worth trying. You can also, if you don't want to do that in water, you can just literally try just dipping it back into the ink that you filled it with. If you've got that handy, you can do that. Or you can literally just, since it's a vac filler, basically every time you're filling it, you're flushing ink through it anyway. You can literally, if you have the ink handy that you filled it with in the first place, you can just take the thing and flush, a few pumps into the ink, and it'll kind of flush and recirculate it all. And that might be enough to kind of kickstart it once again. But flooding the feed just from the ink chamber down through the feed
risky
itself,
business.
It can be done, but you remember that episode a little while ago where I was trying to do the ink saturation? I get ink all over my hands. About half the time, that's what I end up doing when I try to gracefully flood the feed of my vac filler. So I will say, if you're doing it for curiosity's sake and you're okay with having ink all over your fingers, go nuts. But I wouldn't necessarily do it if I was like in the hotel room of a business conference or something and I had 3 minutes before I was trying to get down to the next session.
Please don't.
That's not the time to do that. I would do like the water trick or something else we already mentioned. So there you go.
There we
That's
go.
what we got. All right.
All right. Next, we have a question from Arai Contilde.
All right.
Arai Contilde. Best pens with replacement nibs.
With 2 exclamation points. So it's not a question, just making an exclamation.
The best.
This is a tough one because I don't know what you mean by best.
Ah.
I mean, like, what's the criteria here? But anyway, I'll just list some that I thought of. Best place to start, because there's a lot of options, basically.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nuanced, and it's not always so easy to tell.
All right, there's going to be some keywords I'm not going to let you say anymore. One is nuanced.
Okay.
Just kidding. Okay.
What else? Depends.
No, you do. Yeah, no, you do your thing.
Okay.
I'll clean up.
So best place to start is to go to our Goulet Pens navigation and go to the replacement nibs page.
That's a really good idea.
Because, I mean, the first
It's all there.
thing is to narrow down
Yeah.
which pens even have replacement nibs. Now, the thing I'll say is on those replacement nib pages, it doesn't necessarily list every single pen, every single model that has, that replacement nib might fit. You sort of get into MacGyver territory here, where you're like, well, this nib doesn't say that it fits, but I know that if I take it out of the housing that it will fit into this other pen, but it might just need a little bit of adjustment or blah, 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 blah. So it gets tough because basically unless a company has designed their pen with their nib that's made to be swapped, that's made as a replacement for their pen models, no manufacturer is going to say, oh yeah, go ahead and put whatever you want. It's fine. I'm sure it'll work fine and we'll totally cover it with warranty.
Right.
It's all good.
No,
that doesn't happen. As it makes sense. If you are making cars and you're like, whatever, just put duct tape and slap whatever wiring you want in there and it's fine. I'm sure it'll work. And then it doesn't, you got a problem. So
yeah, can you imagine, calling, Microsoft saying like, hey, my Xbox, it's like, oh, just buy this thing off Amazon, you should be fine. Doesn't,
yeah, whatever, just hook up a
no-name brand.
If you got an old car battery, I'm sure you can find a way to hook it up to it. It's fine.
That. They want to make sure that, it's still in good shape and they can control these accessories that they put out, and B, they want to make money off of the accessories they did make, so they want you to buy those.
Sure. Honestly, I don't think that's the case with most pen companies. I don't think they're making any money on replacement nibs. Of the manufacturers that we've talked to, it's like, believe me, they're not like, oh yeah, give me that nib money.
Well, that would explain why most companies don't do it.
Most of them are reluctant to do it. They're like, this is such a pain. We don't make anything because, there are fixed costs associated with creating a SKU, having a UPC, having a ship, having to do all these things. The marketing is literally all of it. So it's like for these little bits and parts and pieces and all that, it's honestly more hassle than it's worth.
Most pen companies don't sell their nibs separately.
Yeah. And that's why a lot of times when you have nibs, they're like half the cost of the pen or more. Partly because...
especially if they're gold.
Well, if it's gold, then it actually is like the materials themselves are really expensive.
I've never seen a gold nib for less than $100.
Oh, no, not at all. And usually they're taking slim margins on it. And the reason we don't offer a lot of spare gold nibs is because the margins are awful for us as a retailer too. So they seem really expensive because they are.
Yeah.
And no one makes any money along the way at all. And it's a huge pain. And then the end result is that whoever's shopping for it thinks it's expensive and overpriced.
Oh, wait.
So it's like, oh, this is not very economical for
I take that back. Wasn't was the Vanishing Point nib under $100?
That one is technically, yeah.
There you go. That's a gold nib. So I was wrong.
Fair enough. But I mean, that's very specific to one model.
And it's also a very tiny amount of gold.
That's the only reason.
And it's getting tinier every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's the only way they can do it. It's economical, right? So anyway, go check out that page. That's a good place to start. That'll at least point you in the right direction, which brands, maybe which models. So some that are really more known for having some replaceable nibs. Lamy is a big one. You can swap it out. It's pretty straightforward to do that. Sometimes you can do it just with your fingers, or you can just use a piece of tape to help grip it, or a piece of rubber grip or something like that. Really pretty straightforward. It can be done wrong, but I mean, there's a lot of people who have done it and done it well. So that's one of the more replaceable ones.
And one of the more like intentionally crafted to be replaced ones.
Yeah.
You could argue that Lamy is...
They don't really like market it necessarily as that way.
They make it easy though.
They do make it easy.
Like you can tell, like being on rails like it is, that those pens are designed to be swapped out.
Yeah. The Pilot Vanishing Point, which we already mentioned, most swappable gold nib for sure. Also works on the Desmo, same nib unit. So Vanishing Point, Desmo, Firmo. You remember the Firmo?
I remember the Firmo. I'm just surprised you said Firmo before saying LS or...
Well, I was thinking of what initials were for the LS.
You went straight to Firmo territory.
Well, I was going chronologically based on what we've carried before.
Okay, Firmo.
Yeah. I mean, the LS is just a fancy Firmo, basically, right?
I remember one...
Same concept.
No!
It's the same concept.
Oh.
It's the back twisting,
you're
retractable
right.
nib.
You're right.
It's like the old school Batmobile is like the Firmo, and then like the newer, cooler Batmobile, whichever. I don't know why I brought this one up, because Drew knows, and there are many Batmobiles, so maybe this is not the greatest example, but I don't know.
If the Firmo was a Batmobile, it would be the one from Batman and Robin.
That's what exactly what I was thinking of. The one with the like super huge fins.
One of the obnoxious ones that
long.
No one wants to remember.
And you're like, it does look kind of cool, but it's like nobody really wants it. It's like, that's a Firmo.
Okay.
That's a Firmo. Okay. And then the VP, the LS, you're like, okay, you're like, yeah, this is like the Tumbler. Like, this is cool.
Yes. Okay.
That is my favorite.
I'm tracking with you. You're not saying wrong things.
I'm bordering on the edge of not knowing what I'm talking about, but I do know the Tumbler because that's a cool looking. That's a cool looking. They like designed that for real too. That was an actual.
Yeah, they drove it.
Why am I saying this like you don't already know it?
No, I like hearing it again.
Yeah, I watched a video about whatever.
Christopher Nolan does a lot of practical effects.
Yeah, it's very cool.
He's all about that. He
legitimately created that Tumbler, and I was like, that is cool as heck.
He also created an actual tumbler to toss around Joseph Gordon-Levitt in a spinning hallway for Inception. They had a fight scene in a hallway, and he created a giant rotating hallway.
That.
Oh my God, yeah.
That's a cool movie.
It's a different type of tumble.
It is indeed. You are the tumbler. Okay, yes. TWSBI is another. So that TWSBI is one where you can tell they really designed it to, like, they have special packaging for the nib and all that. Like Lamy, they like offer a nib, but it's like, okay, fine, here's a nib.
Yeah.
But TWSBI is like, that's part of the value prop of, getting a 580.
It's kind of part of their mission. Like,
or Vac, yeah.
All of their pens are designed to be self-serviceable.
Yeah.
And that includes the nib.
Absolutely.
And now some of these, like you said, we don't have an extensive list on what it can fit. But
these ones that are like within brand, we're usually more specific about it.
But you do have
when we start getting to the ones that are more universal, like the number 6, like Yovos, our Goulet nibs.
That's weird.
Like our Goulet nibs are a good example. We offer those. They can be put on a variety of different things. But honestly, like sometimes those models themselves will change a little bit because they'll change something on the housing or the way the feed fits or whatever. And we're like, well, this kind of fits, but not as well as it used to. And they didn't really say when they changed it. So we really lack some confidence in really being able to say specifically all models that fit on some of these replacement nibs. So this is the ones I've covered here that are like very brand specific. And even like Kaweco has some that are pretty brand specific. So like, yes, if it's designed, and offered by that company to be used on those pens, cool. Those are usually pretty straightforward. The ones where you're frankenpenning and swapping parts, that's where you're really into the MacGyver.
Yeah, and I will say that TWSBI makes their nibs with the intention of you just like unscrewing them and screwing them back on with that grip section attached. But for a lot of them, you don't use that grip section. Like they'll sell the mini and then they'll sell a 580 nib and a vac nib. But if you have an eco or a swipe or something like that, then you actually need to take the nib itself off. You don't have any use for the grip section that it comes with.
Right.
That can be a little tricky. The feeds are a little fragile. So I have a video on that and I will link that if I can remember to do that. But otherwise, just search for TWSBI Eco Nib Swap or something like that.
Yell at him in the comments, and he can link to it in the description.
Don't yell at me.
After the fact.
I'm very sensitive.
You
I'm
just
like a TWSBI
speak-
feed. My emotions are like a TWSBI feed, and I will collapse.
Don't yell, just speak forcefully.
There we go. That works.
Yeah.
I agree with, I think that Lamy is the best. I think that one that is overlooked is steel pilot nibs. So you've got the discontinued Plumix that might still be available near you. I don't know, but that one, you've got the $13, $14 Kakuno. You've got the Metro, the Explorer, the Prera, and then there might be another one hovering around there that you can't get in the U.S. But
Penmanship.
you've got like 4 or 5 different pens that can all take the same nib. And if you can find the Plumix for sale anywhere right now, that's the cheapest option. But even if you buy a Kakuno,
That's stub nib only on the Plumix.
right?
Yeah.
But if you're on the Kakuno, you can get an extra fine. So if you have a $60 Prera and you want to get an extra fine for that, the cost of the Kakuno is less than the cost of what it would take to buy a brand new Lamy nib, just the nib,
true.
and you get a pen.
Yeah.
So it seems like you're buying a pen, but it's no more expensive than buying a just Lamy nib.
But it's a hack. You're like, they're not designing it necessarily to be done that way.
No, they're
it's
not.
like the economies of scale for them using the same nib on multiple pens.
But it's no different than taking
theoretically you can remove it.
It's no different than taking a TWSBI mini nib and putting it on an Eco.
It's no different.
Because you have to pull the nib and the feed out anyway. So you have to do that with the Kakuno. So that's something that I like to recommend because those nibs are super easy to pull.
Fair enough.
They're nice to situate onto the feeds. They kind of like sit on top of the feed really securely.
Yeah.
They kind of like lock in there. So those are some of my favorites to swap.
Yeah, those are good.
And they're good nibs.
Yeah. They just take a little more acumen, I would say. It's not like if someone's like brand new to fountain pens, I wouldn't be like, oh yeah, just get this and swap the nib, because it'll be like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But something like a Lamy or a TWSBI, I feel a little more.
TWSBI, it depends on which TWSBI though, because if you're putting,
I'm talking like 580, you're getting a 580
them
nib
right on.
unit.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, that's a little easier to grasp. You're not, you don't feel like you're taking anything apart.
Right.
You're like, I'm swapping something that's designed to be swapped, as opposed to I am dismantling a pen and rebuilding it onto another pen.
No feed pulling.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. All right, next question we got from Dawn Galwell. Who are some famous fountain pen users? This is a fun one.
Yeah, and
you listed a lot here.
I did a little bit of research and some of my own knowledge as well. So we definitely know about the Neils. The Neils are very, very into
they're out
fountain pens.
there. They're out there.
So
in terms of people knowing that they use pens,
it's a thing. It is known. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Neil Gaiman.
Yeah.
So we know that Neil Gaiman loves his 823 and his Pilot Blue.
Very known for
and
that.
We know that Neil deGrasse Tyson loves his Namikis. And they are both on record as saying that, in several places. In fact, David Parker, Fig Boot on Pens, has a great, super famous interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson where they just talked about fountain pens the whole time.
Yeah.
And I still love watching that from
It took
time
him
to time.
I think it was like 2.5 years or something to set that interview up.
That was
persistent.
But he got it.
He did.
He got it.
Props.
So that was a great thing to do.
Little fun fact: Neil Gaiman, the I don't know if it's still, but the bottle of the Pilot Blue that he has was mine. I saw on Twitter that he was traveling or something and it broke, and I knew he was a fan. I just reached out to him and I was like, "Hey, I know you can't buy this bottle by itself. Do you want mine? Just appreciate all you do for promoting writing in the pen world. Happy to send you my ink." And he was like, yeah. And he took it.
Yep.
So didn't make a big deal about it or whatever, but it was like, it's just cool. Like, that's my ink.
There you go.
He's got my ink. That's so cool. No Gaiman used my ink. That's
That
kind
is
of cool.
awesome.
Anyway.
Stephen King, my favorite author, uses fountain pens. Rosario Dawson, actually, Kristen Stewart, Alton Brown, who actually has my wax seal because we were out of stock. He wanted to buy a B. And since I had a B, because we share the same last name, I just sent it to him for free. So I eventually got another one.
Still, that's cool.
I think I might have.
He's got your wax seal.
Yeah.
He has touched the same thing that you have touched.
There we go.
That's kind of cool, right?
Team Brown. I think I might have asked the company to reimburse me for that wax seal.
Probably.
So, yeah.
Probably. You asked me for a lot of things, so yeah.
Johnny Depp's a fan of the Lamy Safari, and then I think Mont Blanc, he went on record as talking about that as well.
I feel like the Safari is a very popular pen amongst many celebrities.
Absolutely. Yeah. Emma Watson, she is. We've seen her with a Lilliput, a Kaweco Lilliput. Oprah Winfrey, Howard Stern, Edward Norton, all on record as being fountain pen users.
I can't remember the guy's name, but anyway. I thought of somebody as we were talking.
So. Oh, yeah. Who you got?
Well, I got a whole list. I just added them to the end. No, you go through your list.
That was it.
Oh, that was your whole list.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Finished up with
solid list.
The artist formerly known as the Incredible Hulk, Edward Norton.
There you go. I always remember him from Fight Club. Anyway, Deborah Messing, famous actress. She's a big Lamy fan.
I don't know her.
Let's see here. She's on a whole bunch of things. What was she in? Rachel modeled the hair that she had done for her wedding after the hair that she had in some rom-com. I can't remember the name of it. What the heck was it? It had, what's his face? The guy with the mouth and the hair.
Oh Steve Tyler.
No. I can picture him.
Mick Jagger.
Daggone it.
No.
I don't remember. But anyway, look up Deborah Messing.
Okay.
Very nice lady.
Okay.
But she's a big Lamy fan.
Awesome.
So yeah. And then George W. Bush, former U.S. president.
I remember him.
Made some video at some point. I don't remember, but he was holding up a Pilot Varsity the whole time in this video. It wasn't anything pen related or whatever, but it was like, I guess he's using that.
That's a practical pen.
This was after he was president. He had some video about something. I don't remember what.
All right.
Nathan Fillion.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about him.
He's a Lamy 2000 guy.
That's right.
Yep.
And a Tatya Savannah guy.
That's right.
He had that.
He's the one.
He had that bone pen.
The bone pen.
That weird thing.
Yeah. And then what the heck is his name? The guy who plays Wolverine.
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman.
Did you write that there?
I wrote
you wrote Wolverine?
I wrote Wolverine. I was like, I literally can't remember the guy's name.
Hugh Jackman.
I don't know how much of a true fan he is, but he's like a sponsored whoever for Mont Blanc.
He's right.
Done all kinds of Mont Blanc stuff.
I remember when they announced him as a spokesperson.
Yeah.
Well, I guess Sylvester Stallone too.
Sylvester Stallone. Yeah. I was just thinking he freaking designed a pen with monograppa.
He at least uses that pen.
Yeah.
I don't know if he uses pens, but he uses.
I think if you design a pen with your friggin' name and you're in the branding, you're in the advertisement for the pen.
I don't know because. I don't know.
He used the pen. He used the pen.
He used
it for the photograph to promote the pen that he designed.
We don't know he wrote with it. Now, I'm a huge Stallone fan. Love him.
Who are some famous fountain pen users?
We don't know that he used it.
That's the question.
Have you seen Expendables 2, Brian? Because I have. And in that movie, he used the Chaos pen, but it was a rollerball.
Okay, well... Look, let's not judge somebody based on what they used in a movie.
I have never seen him write with a fountain pen.
He used it in the photograph for the Chaos.
He was holding it.
He was holding it. That's using it.
That's using it?
Yeah. An argument can be made that you're using a fountain pen.
So if I sat on a motorcycle, that's me riding the motorcycle. I've ridden a motorcycle then?
Well, it's different. You're using the motorcycle. If you sit on a motorcycle and you have a picture taken that's used to advertise the motorcycle, you're using that motorcycle.
You do not believe that.
You're using that motorcycle.
Saying that for this argument.
No. I fully believe. I don't think that was the heart of the question.
Okay, so if I go over your house and I pick up your TIG welder, I'm like, yes, I've used a welder before.
Well, if you're just picking it up, what are you using it for? Are you accomplishing anything by doing that?
I'm just saying, could I say that I've used a welder before? Yeah, I've used Brian's welder.
If you took a picture of yourself and posted something on Instagram saying, I'm using this welder, then I'd be like, you're using it to look like a welder poser on Instagram. You're using it. Yes. That is something that you could say.
Okay, fine.
I'm really just arguing for the sake of arguing. One could very easily deduce that if you have a pen that's branded after you and you're holding it in the photograph, you've probably written with that pen.
One could deduce the opposite.
I've never seen with my own two eyes any of these people actively writing with a fountain pen. So there is an assumption to be made for all of them.
Fair enough.
But if you're visually photographed with a fountain pen in your hand,
you better eat that thing up and drive.
you would make that's right. Don't just sit on that pen. You got to ride it. Anyway, that was fun.
I guarantee you we have at least one listener that owns the Chaos pen, the Chaos fountain pen.
I hope so.
Well, no, I know so.
Yeah?
I know so.
You know for a fact?
I do.
That's awesome.
I do. He knows who he is.
Yeah, there you go. All right, Drew, that was a lot of fun. Oh boy, now we get to go.
All right.
You really pulled some good ones this
golly,
week.
yeah, here we go. I'm going to break your brain on this one. Haley Cates asks the very, very simple, easy to answer question that Brian will have no hard time with. What do you think is the future of fountain pens, Brian? 20 words or less.
How am I supposed to answer this question? What is the future of anything? Like, I don't know. It's such an open-ended question.
What's the future of anything?
What is the future? Yeah. It's tough to say. So
Is it going to be nuanced?
when I don't know how to answer a question, I like to go back in time
and
reflect on what has happened before so that I can hopefully find the answer somewhere. I don't have like a firm thing. So we got into this whole fountain pen thing. Like the perspective that I have, because anytime you're talking about the future, it's like anybody can say what might happen in the future. And I'm going to say, if you pull this video 10 or 20 years from now, it's probably going to be like, this is such utter nonsense. Brian clearly had no idea what he was talking about.
I will say that about myself, 45 minutes from now.
Well, that's also true.
Yeah.
So my perspective is I knew nothing about fountain pens leading up to basically 2009. That was when my fountain pen awakening happened in me. So everything that I know about them has happened since then. But at that time, there was a lot of conversation, very serious conversation in the pen industry about the fact that it was dying, that it was going to go away, that people were going to stop going to shows, and that no one was, learning how to write in school, and that basically there was no future for the fountain pen world. So we've heard that for going on 13 years. And it was very believed at that time. I think that many people have been surprised, in the industry at least, at the resurgence in many ways of fountain pens. I don't know whether it's like a resurgence across the board, because there are other brands who have shriveled up and gone away and been reduced and stuff like that. So
I think it's definitely a resurgence in the U.S.
In the U.S., I would think so.
Yeah.
I would think so, yeah. I don't know about globally. I don't know. It depends on where we want to go with this question, but it's so open-ended, I have no idea. Thankfully, I do not believe that, at least looking back at that 2009, 2010 timeframe, that you could say that future has happened.
No.
Will it happen at some point? Sure, everything will go away at some point. But in the near future, I don't think fountain pens are going to go away in the near future. I think that it's going to evolve. Especially right now, like there is so much crazy stuff going on in the world right now with supply chain stuff, global economy, all these interrelated, just impacts of economies and manufacturing goods and the climate stuff and just all these interrelated things. It's so hard to say really where much of anything is going to go with a lot of confidence. The thing I will say is that I suspect that the passion that drives the fountain pen industry will continue, because that has proven itself to be very resistant to outside forces. Fountain pens have not been taught in U.S. schools in 50 years at least.
I mean, think about
most schools.
Think about when we shut down. When the pandemic first hit hard, and we were like legit closed. We're like, for 3 months.
Is this going to be the end? We have no idea.
Did things dry up, or did people still buy from us?
Yeah.
They kept on buying. We're like, we can't ship anything. Oh, no, that's fine. Ship it when you can. I still want some fountain pens when you get back.
Yeah. Everything else in the world is crazy, but I want some pens because they're my safe place in the world. And it's like, that's incredible. Like, that's so cool. Like, what a special community we have here.
For real.
And I totally get that too. So I think that's to me, that feels like something that's more in the conversation now than it's been in the past. Like even in like the 90s and 2000s, like there were a lot of fountain pens being sold, collected, invested, whatever. Yeah. A lot of limited editions. That's when like Mont Blanc was putting out crazy limited editions all the time. There was a lot of conversation about fountain pens selling and people buying them and collecting and kind of using them to a great degree, but not to this depth, not to like this like you said, a little bit of self-actualization, with people journaling and doing mental health and like really having a reprieve from the pressures of the world and technology and everything and going analog. And like that is all something that's been really interesting phenomenon as the digital world has just kind of enveloped us in every single aspect of our lives. To have these like specific analog things that we can kind of like settle into, and it might be fountain pens, it might be all kinds of other things, right? For some people, it's like pinball machines or who knows, gardening, all kinds of other things, like getting your hands like tactile, like touching real things, doing activities that don't involve a screen. I think that is going to be something that becomes more precious over time because, it's going to be so pervasive in every area of our life. And we're going to have a lot more in our life that's not only digital, but in like, you look at like metaverse and like where things are going in that direction, not like complete alternate reality or AR or whatever. Like you could easily argue like that stuff will kill writing instruments altogether. Like we will have no need to write anything down because we won't even be operating in a physical world in many aspects. And I think we're a long ways off of that kind of dystopian view of what happens to society. Of like, think about the movie WALL-E, where everybody's just like fat and floating around on like
eating
pads
all
or
of their
whatever,
meals
and
out of a cup.
They can't even like get up and walk really, except they totally do, and they're like running around and doing. I'm like, this is like not reality. That movie, like, it's not accurate to its own narrative. Like they have never really like got up in their life, and now they're like running around and throwing missiles and all this. And I'm like, how do they have the muscles for this? They would be totally atrophied. They would like couldn't even get up and stand up off the floor. Like, no, sorry, Pixar, you missed it on that one. I love the rest of that movie, but that's always bothered me. Anyway,
so do you think that, based on your kind of trajectory of thinking here,
okay,
that eventually, whereas once upon a time, manual efforts were the routine, the things that had to happen, the work, and digital things when they were new were the fun, luxury, casual novelty items. Do you think that's going to flip? And one day the digital stuff will be the everyday stuff, the work stuff, everything that we have to do will be done digitally. And the analog stuff, the manual stuff will be where we find the joy, where we find kind of the break and the relaxation.
I think there's an argument that could be made for that. I don't know if you can apply that to just like universally, like the whole world, the whole whatever, because like digital is, it's not like everybody's going to plug into like the Matrix and there will be no physical world that we interact with anymore. I don't think we're going to have that.
But like in the I don't know if you ever read the book or watched the movie Ready Player One.
I have
but
not.
Essentially, all the kids went to school, in this virtual world.
Okay.
They had their avatars, and it makes sense. Like you could do that. if everybody had one of those headsets, they were like the crappier headsets and the nicer ones.
We got to see a little bit of what that looked like.
Yeah, so like I can see that, and I can see how a lot of people do work digitally like that. But obviously, it wasn't like the Matrix where they were like 100% plugged in. They'd take it off and they'd eat, in their trailers and stuff like that. But something like that's not too hard to believe.
No, I think it's interesting the point you bring up that like what seems like a novelty eventually, like all things, like cars were a novelty. Now it's like, okay, yeah, you might get excited about a new car every now and then, but you don't look at the street and go, wow, look at that motorized horse that's going down the street. It's like so commonplace. We don't even really think about it.
There was a movie where all the cars were automatic, but then they found a car that was like an old car with like an actual engine in it. Oh my God, what movie was that in? And it was like a big deal. They're like, oh my God, it's a gas powered car. And
yeah, I mean that's eventually going to be a thing, right? Like that's the direction things are going to evolve over time, and that's going to totally be a thing. So I think that it's fountain pens are never going to be mainstream again. Like they had their moment. They were a commodity.
Right.
They were a utility. Just like typewriters, just like anything that's used for just business communication and commerce and all that type of stuff. Once you have a more efficient way to communicate, then everything that came before it goes off into some degree of obscurity. And fountain pens absolutely fall into that territory. However, there's more of a passion and more of a fan base around fountain pens than there are for many other things that have fallen by the wayside because of technology. I think partly because they were around for quite a while, actually. And also I think people are rediscovering a new defined purpose that they serve. So it's like a new context of how they're served. Or maybe just a rediscovery of it. Because I think you could argue like people still journaled, they still corresponded, they still, even at the times where everybody was using a fountain pen, people still used them for these same purposes. It's just, it didn't feel as novel, when they were more ubiquitous. Now it feels more novel. So I think they're going to continue to live in that very novel place, which means it's going to be very passionate, very connected, very like-minded people that use them, that make them, that sell them, that, discover them. It's going to continue. I see that being, a continued trend.
Nice.
And maybe that will evolve and technology will start to merge with it a little bit, just as social media and video production has helped more people to rediscover it. But I think that because it's so rooted in an analog nature, I think that is going to be something that over time gets a little bit more sophisticated, but still remains fairly novel and nostalgic. So I think with that, you're going to continue to have niche brands. They're going to develop things. I think as technology develops and we all have the better ability to connect with each other and communicate and globally distribute products, I think you're going to see special themes, limited edition products, designs, things like that are not made for mass appeal, but are made for very specific targeted kind of audiences. I think of a company like Retro 51. Like they pump out designs of pens where 99% of the world would look at these pens and be like, why the heck would you buy that pen? But for the 1%, they're like, they made this pen for me.
Exactly.
I can see that being a much more common thing. And then I think that, what I hope at least is that there's as much more talk and discovery about like mental health and, just like going back with a little bit of self-actualization. I think that's a really important discussion that's being had right now, especially with the pandemic and being socially isolated in many ways and so much just stress and stuff going on and people needing to come up with ways to cope with things that are outside of their control. There's a lot of what I think is interesting conversation going on about therapy and journaling and mental health. And I could see intentionally like writing, and fountain pens are one of the most intentional writing tools that you can get. So I think there's a really interesting, timeline to follow in that realm that I'm personally very interested in seeing where that goes.
And I think that what you're saying jives with a lot of corresponding trends that we see with collectors and fans of fountain pens use in other aspects of their life. Like they are fans of automatic watches. They're fans of typewriters. They're fans of these more analog instruments that are in a lot of ways obsolete, but they have kind of transformed into these passions rather than what would you call them as before they were commodities. They're outside of the commodity zone now, but that has kind of like given them a second life and a more passionate life.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue cars like that are kind of like that. Like people who are car enthusiasts, getting a car with a stick shift right now is kind of like having a fountain pen. It's like falling into that territory. So it's like if you're getting a car with a stick shift, you're getting a car that's intentionally like a little bit harder to drive. Not anybody can just jump in and drive one. And you are driving it because you like that experience better. There are certain cars, if you're a hardcore car enthusiast and you want a stick shift, you're going to be limited in the cars that you can buy because not everything even has a stick shift available to purchase. So I think
less every year.
Yeah. So I think even with something as vast, so think about like a stick shift, sporty, whatever driving car, 50 years from now, we may not even have combustion engines at all.
You'll have to get a modification done.
So having a stick shift, it's going to be like such a foreign concept, but you'll be like, yeah, this is like how cars were. This is how people got around. They didn't even think about it. That was what fountain pens were around, actually kind of around that same time. So it is interesting to see where it goes. So I don't know.
Well, there you have it.
There you go. Lots of pontification about the future.
There we go.
All right. Drew has a tip of the week for us. So Drew, take it away.
Okay. This is an easy one. if you have a pen case, and now this could be something like this, or it could be Aston. They have a little slot in their flaps.
It's like a business card size.
Yeah.
holder.
If you have a pen case that has an extra pouch or slot in it, like this one does right here, or if you don't, a great way to keep track of your pens and what they have inked up is to simply just write it down and stick it in there. Now, for me, I try to remember it because I only have 3 pens inked up at any given time. But let's say you have a bunch inked up.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Just write it down.
I remember
And I
everything.
know this seems really, really simple, but it's been a huge benefit for me is to keep a field notes or something similar in my rickshaw, like this right here.
So you keep like a whole notebook in there.
I do. It fits a notebook perfectly. But I tell you what, you may not know this. Field notes paper, it's not the best.
It's not the optimal
It's not the best.
fountain pen
Not the
experience.
best. So as much as here's my conundrum. I love field notes. I love the look of them.
Sure.
They make me happy when I see them, but they don't.
The branding is fantastic.
I know,
The design
I know.
is unparalleled.
But if I'm writing what ink I have in my pens,
Yeah.
I want it to look really nice. So I often go for this, which is the Nemosiny 192.
Okay.
So that is a really, really thin little reporter style notebook. And that also fits really, really easily.
Also known as a steno.
Steno pad, yep.
Yeah.
It fits in there really, really nicely. So I love that as well. And
That's cool.
Nemosiny paper works really well. It's basically Rhodia. It's made in Japan. Really, really solid paper.
There's a bunch of different notebooks that you can get around that size, though.
Yeah. So I would say like
Rhodia's got some. We've got some Goulet notebooks that are that small. There's a whole bunch of options for better paper.
And if you've got something like a koozie case, you could fit an entire notebook easily just right into the center of that, no problem. Like you can cram so many things in here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Any pen case where you have like 3 to 5 or more, you're gonna easily be able to fit a notebook that size in there.
yeah, and even if you've got a standard, book style pen case that doesn't have a little spot for a card or something like that, what I used to do when I used my Aston case primarily, I would just fold up a little piece of A5 paper that had my stuff written down. And
Or an index card or something.
Yeah, and whenever I would refill something, I just cross out the previous one or put a little symbol next to it because I still wanted to see what it looked like. And then just write what my 3 current ones were and the pen next to them. So it seems kind of like a no-brainer, but when I started doing it, it just made my life a whole lot easier because you think you can remember, well, I don't know. I think that I can remember. I overestimate my memory a lot. And despite
You forget how bad your memory is.
having consistent reminders throughout my life, I still do overestimate my own brain. So for me, it was really, really helpful. And it also is something like this. While it's not the most long-lasting thing, obviously a Colo ring would be a super great way to keep track of what inks you've used historically.
Yeah.
But that's not going to fit in here as easily. So something like this, at least it could serve as a
the coloring, I think, because that's like more in like business card size, a little smaller. So like you could just take like one of the things off the
There
ring.
you go, or 3. Yeah, if you just have a few of them.
Yeah,
for
if you have
sure.
a few of them, the cool thing about something like that is, it's going to be thin. You can put, if you don't have an extra pocket in your case and you just like literally like throw it on top of the pens and close it up, it's not going to crumple anything. It's not going to cause any damage to your pens. Whereas something like that's got like a ringed kind of binder to it, you wouldn't necessarily want to like,
You wouldn't want
in a
that
pen
inside
case.
of it. Yeah, having it on the
so
outside.
if
is
you had
good.
something that was more of like the coloring type, like it's more like I'll keep wanting to say index card. It's not that big. It's like more like a 2x4 size.
Yeah, it's more narrow than an index.
Yeah, so it'll fit in a lot of different places. But the nice thing about that is if you do what Drew's talking about and you write down each ink that you use as you swap pens out, well, then you can just swap the card out and you can put that back on your ring and you can keep it for future reference to see what it looked like in your pen. So there's lots of different ways to mix it up.
Yep. But overall, it's really helpful for me, and especially because I like to try out different inks all the time. There have been so few times where I've inked up the same ink, Brian, because we have 700, 800 different, like, why would I keep using the same ink?
Well, especially like you are often like swabbing new inks. You're swabbing prospective brands that you're thinking about
discover
carrying.
so many new inks.
Yeah, you deal with more new ink, like hands-on more new ink, I think, than anybody else in this company, myself included.
In just about 11 years, I could probably count fewer than 20 inks I've repeated.
Really?
You know, probably, yeah.
In like the actual filling of a pen?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Probably fewer than 20 repeats.
I used to repeat less, and I've gotten lazier over the years. I go back to some of the same standbys.
Yeah,
these days.
I've like with this one, I've got golly.
What are your repeats? I'm curious. We're deviating a little bit here, but what are the ones that you like tend to keep going back to?
One of my originals was the Majestic Blue. That's one of my all-time favorites.
Diamine, yeah, that's a good one.
And
one of the OG sheeners.
oh, here are my yellow ones.
Oh yeah.
Yep, those are my yellow ones right there.
Nice.
So right now, see, I don't even know what I have in here right now.
Okay.
Okay, I'm using Robert Oster Cherry Blossom. Oh, it's all 3 Robert Osters.
Okay.
Robert Oster Cherry Blossom, Cafe Crema, and Summer Storm.
Okay.
So, yeah, and
so you just like turn the page, go to the next one, and just
and this is my 3 before that. That was my 3 there. So
yeah,
I would not have had any idea what I can't even pronounce these. And A Signy, like I love Colorverse, but that's not easy to remember.
It's not. It's not.
Except for A Boo, I remember that one.
Yeah.
A Boo.
Especially if it's like not named after a descriptor of the color.
Right.
It's like, how do you remember? Especially after years and years and years, how do you remember all this?
Right.
color?
And Sailor Ink Studio, oh, forget about it.
Oh yeah.
Lost cause.
Yep.
So anyway, that's my tip of the week. Write
Nice.
stuff down.
Yeah, there you go. I love it. All right, next we're moving on to the Spotlight, the YSTUDIO Classic Revolve.
All right. This is an interesting one, Brian.
It is.
Because I recently did a video on this where, as you know, the YSTUDIO Classic Revolve is unique because, we can get to that later. Actually, no, we'll get to that now.
Okay.
It comes with a piece of sandpaper.
It does.
And it is
Not common with most pens.
no,
Not common.
never a thing.
I think it's the first pen that we've had that's come with abrasive.
Absolutely. And it's so that you can weather the pen.
Not the first pen that abrasive has been used or has been encouraged to be used.
Okay. Anyway, I went ahead and
come back to that.
did it
Okay.
on the video. And here is the pen.
Cool.
As you can see, it doesn't look that much different.
Okay.
I went crazy on this thing
Did
with
you?
the sandpaper.
Doesn't look like you did.
I know. So it matted out a little bit of the black. It's not quite as glossy, but really all it did was open up the corners of the facets a little bit and made them more like wide. So this one,
I feel like we need the close-up cam here.
so, and we'll also put images of what this pen looks like when it's brand new as well, so you can kind of see the difference. But I was so surprised by this. So I spoke with Kenro, who's our distributor for this pen, and the folks over at Kenro told me that the main kind of superpower about this pen is that it is meant to be just beat up and weathered and like thrown in bags, pouches, purses, toolboxes, whatever, and it can hold up to it. And I was like, okay, yeah, sure.
Okay. Do you want to handle this thing? Do you want to be able to see the pen?
Oh, sure, whatever. So here we go. And I had a hard time believing that because that just seems like so different than what I have been used to with other fountain pens. But
Yeah.
I can say that it's true because this pen did not get destroyed.
Nice.
Just despite my best efforts.
Well, it's metal, so that helps, right? It's metal through and through.
It is, but I took the same sandpaper to the metal cap of the Monteverde Ritma, and that
Didn't fare so well.
Oh no, it looked bad.
Well, it's not solid metal; it's plated, right? So this is solid brass, but it's got the black. I mean,
Right,
the black
but this-
coating is obviously
Right, but the black
it's
coating
obviously
didn't come off. It only wore through the corners where it was already weakened, but the flat parts, like I couldn't
just
get it
took
to
it.
budge. Yeah. So if you
okay.
wanted to put
I
this
guess
thing
that fares pretty well for like the longevity of it.
right, if you wanted to put this thing in with your keys, it would be no problem at all.
Okay. Well, that's
So
good to know.
I was impressive.
What grit sandpaper
I was
was it? Did it
impressed.
say on it, or do you know? Did it seem pretty fine, or was it like pretty coarse?
I mean, it wasn't like stuff you'd use on your drywall,
Okay.
but it was definitely not micro mesh.
Right. Okay.
So it was kind of like, that stuff that we got from Brian Gray over at Edison, that sandpaper we used to deburr stuff.
Okay. Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
like a wet sandpaper, like you would have like an automotive like sandpaper.
Yeah, but the rougher version of the two.
Okay, it's like a 400 grit. That's
Something
usually what that
around
is.
there. Yeah.
Okay.
But it was pretty cool. So these are all made in Taiwan, Brian, and the nib is also made in Taiwan. So every aspect of the pen.
Okay.
And it takes a standard international converter. There's a cool little O-ring there to make the barrel go on nice and snug. So that's neat. And look at this branded converter.
Heyo. That's a cool looking converter.
Right? It's even got the little YSTUDIO logo on there.
Nice.
Now, the first time I plugged this in, it was kind of hard to... Oh, no,
Did you have to like really cram it on
It's easy
there?
now. Yeah, I did, but now it's fine.
Okay, that's often the case with converters. You have to like really push it on the first time.
But I love it when it has an O-ring, so it just slides
You feel that resistance on
Yeah,
there? Yeah.
That's really nice. And
yeah, sometimes with metal threads, you get that like squeakiness that
you
can
wanna take it?
happen. Yeah, let me see this thing. It's a bit awkward trying to like.
yeah,
look
no,
through
it's
the
definitely
camera.
not squeaky.
Okay.
No squeakings there.
This is a good size. Like this is about as thin as I would want a pen to be. Like the grip gets a little thin for my big hand.
Also, it doesn't post.
It doesn't even give you the option.
But if it did, I feel like it'd be too
This
back
would be
weighted.
too long.
Yeah.
I would never try to post this anyway.
No.
So to me, if you had some kind of thing on the back to make it post, I would just be like, that's just a big knob that's sticking out. That
Just
like, why
wouldn't
is
do
it
it.
even there?
But
And this is cool too. Like it doesn't have a clip, but because it's hexagonal like that, it's not going to roll off.
Exactly.
So that's the only thing I really don't like about pens that don't allow you to post that also don't have like a clip or roll stop or something. You don't see that with a lot of like widely commercially available pens, but you see that a lot from like independent makers that make it. And they're like, oh yeah, well you just have it or have a roll stop or not a roll stop, but a pen rest or something like that. And you're just like, you're not carrying around your pen rest. Like,
right.
Especially a pen like this is meant to be carried around and kind of, but they obviously thought about that when they designed it. So that's cool.
Yeah. So I think it's really rad. And I think that it has a superpower that no other pen has.
It like sits down in your hand. Like the weight of it doesn't feel like, oh man, my hand's going to cramp, but it's like, it feels planted.
Right. I don't often come across a pen that has a feature that no other pen has. And
yes, sandability.
Right. Like I've never encountered a pen where like, hey, this one's meant to be really roughed up.
Yeah.
And
I mean, literally,
that's something to talk about because
they give you the supplies to rough it up.
Right. It's not like, as someone who works in pen promotion, like I need to talk about pens. I need to come up with things to say about this pen versus that pen versus that pen. And when I see something truly unique that doesn't require a whole lot of effort to talk about, like, that's so exciting to me. And this is definitely that. So you can, if you want to just throw this into a bag and not worry about it getting scratched or dented, this is the pen for you.
Pretty safe.
Yeah. So you can look at those pictures and see how thin those lines originated. And
So it has the lines originally anyway, but it is much thinner. Like you can definitely tell you did something on this.
Yeah.
You know what you did.
I know what I did. Okay. I also I tried to destroy an 823. Brian, remember I told you I was going to think about doing that?
Yeah.
So
did you do it?
I did, but so that pen, if anybody's seen that video, just a disclaimer, I didn't ruin an 823. I had some spare parts and you
ruined that part.
Well, the parts were already ruined. So
you ruined it more.
I did. The cap had a huge crack going down below the cap band and above the cap band. So that cap was useless, except for the finial and the clip, of which I did not mess with. Because I'm like, I can keep that finial in the clip. So, but I did get all over everything else. And then the barrel of the pen had a massive crack going from the threads all the way up into the barrel, which you can see in the video. If you're looking for the crack, you can see like, oh, this pen's pretty screwed up. But I also didn't ruin the knob in the back because I could save the piston. So I was selective about what I ruined, but it didn't look like that.
Fair enough.
So I also didn't say in the video that.
Would you say that you used that pen?
The 823?
Even though you didn't write with it, would you say that you used it?
Oh, God.
I'm just trying to find the definition here.
I didn't use it to write with, no.
But did you use it, though?
I used it, yes.
Used it. Okay.
Oh, my God, you're the worst.
I'm just trying to get clarity.
Oh.
To be unclear is to be unkind.
Oh, is that what you're being?
Mm-hmm.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm. I'm trying to be kind.
Oh, God.
Yeah, just seeking clarity.
Anyway, it's a neat pen.
The nib comes out of this pen.
Yeah, there you go. And
it looks like number 5, right? Is that a pretty standard number 5?
It seems to be number 5, yeah.
Okay, so,
And I've never seen that feed before. It's not like a not a standard feed.
Yeah, it's got some interesting little like
Yeah.
whole things there.
So from what I understand, this is 100% made with YSTUDIO in Taiwan. So
all right,
hats off to them for that.
That's cool.
I like the idea of everything being made in the same place. That's
neat.
not super common.
Yeah, very cool. And it's not an old company. They're only around for a few years, so
They've got a lot of
more
pens,
up
but
and
only
coming.
one fountain pen.
Yeah, they're more in like the rollerball everyday carry kind of space. It seems. But
I'm sorry, they don't just have one
dabbling.
fountain pen. I think they have a smaller like.
They have like a resin version of this pen. I
think they have one that has like a little that you could like.
They got a lanyard one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I don't
Or they
know if
did. I don't know if they have it anymore.
Do they not? Yeah.
Either way, this is the only one that we carry.
Okay.
But I give it a thumbs up. I was really I really had some fun with it.
I mean,
and it writes
see-
nicely.
I can see the scuffs that you're talking about, but it's not like scuffed through.
I also like whacked it against my ring a bunch of times.
I see some of the like deep like
Yeah, I like took
knocks.
it. I took it and I was just like whacking it against my ring and like rubbing my ring all over it. Just try
Okay.
to. I tried to. I mean, I know that if I gave it
looks
to
like
you,
you'd take it pretty good. I would take it to the next level.
I know you would. You'd be like, oh, I'll do a thing.
break out that welder.
Oh God, yeah.
I'm just kidding. You don't weld brass.
So
You braze brass. Anyway,
okay.
different process.
Anyway, that is the YSTUDIO Classic Revolve.
There you go. Which I always want to say revolver. I always feel like I'm cutting it short.
I always
Like the
I always
classic
wanna
revolve.
Yeah, I want to say Evolve for some reason. Classic Evolve.
That works.
I don't know.
Yeah. Classic evolve. Ooh, that's like a nice like paradox there. How do you have a classic evolve?
Oh,
I guess
that's
you can-
true. Classic meaning past, evolve
Past.
meaning future.
I guess you could evolve. Things in the past have evolved. So it's a classic evolution.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sounds like a band name, like classic evolution.
It's not weird enough to be a band name.
It is not. You'd have to throw some like threes instead of the E's.
Yeah.
Then you could. Anyway, all right. Now to the how do I even set this up? Now to the portion that is even more nonsensical than what we've already talked about. Let's talk about what's happening in our lives.
Well, I talked about how I saw Doctor Strange in the
did.
theater. It was really good.
Yeah.
And my brother wanted to see it. My other brother.
Okay.
And I was like, "Hey, if you still want to see it, I'll see it again." So he's like, "Yeah, actually,
Like in theater?
yeah." So I saw it again.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it still good? Like
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I
Okay.
know that Sam Raimi, the director, he always puts Bruce Campbell in all of his movies. So I mean, obviously you couldn't miss him in this, but he also puts this old Oldsmobile in every movie. He even directed a Western, and it was like in a barn somewhere, like with the door cracked, and you could see it. So I knew it was there.
Respect.
And I said to my brother, I'm like, I'm gonna find it this time. Like I know it's there, and I forgot. And I didn't find it.
I'm sure you could Google it. Somebody's screenshot.
I did Google it. I
did?
didn't find a
Okay.
screenshot, but it wasn't where I was thinking.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Okay.
so,
You're gonna clearly gonna have to see it again.
I mean, I will eventually, but and then this weekend I had to. So we've got these double shelving vanity things in the master bedroom at home.
Okay.
And they have this big honking drawer that is kind of like U-shaped. So when you close it, it kind of goes around the plumbing of the sink.
Oh, interesting.
And it's a big one-piece drawer, and Shannon's broke. And it always felt a little weird, but apparently she forced it the wrong way, and the whole one of the brackets just totally like bent and ripped. And
Oh gosh.
so this whole massive drawer was laying on the floor one day when I got home. And
This
I'm like,
massive weird U-shaped drawer that's like,
Sounds like-
totally not going to be a standard thing.
well, I'm like, there's no fixing it because it's one of the brackets is completely destroyed. So I needed to buy new brackets, and
Okay.
at that point, I can't use the same existing holes because the brackets are different. So after doing my best in regards to measuring and things
boy.
like that, I just went to Lowe's and bought some brackets.
Okay.
Somehow it worked out perfectly.
Hey,
And the
look at
drawer
you.
shuts better than ever. Like, I don't know. Like, I just eyeballed everything. Not one measurement was taken.
I love
And
how you fixed it, but you're like, I have no idea how I did this.
I mean, I kind of did. Like, I
That's
was not
awesome.
expecting it to be okay. I was expecting to get very upset.
I mean, there's a lot of ways that fixing a drawer can go wrong.
Right?
I'm kind of impressed.
And then like the brackets were longer than the old brackets too.
Oh,
so I'm
okay.
like, I'm gonna shut this and it's gonna go too far in, and it didn't. Like, so yay.
Good job.
I'm still in disbelief, but
So the drawer itself like wasn't broken. It was just like the slides or whatever.
yeah,
Like
one of them was completely mangled.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah, it basically. I think what happened is it got off the track once and just got shut and shut and shut and shut until
And
it
it's
just
got like bent and worn and all that stuff.
Yeah,
I've
absolutely.
done that before.
yeah.
Good on you, man.
Yeah, I did a thing.
Congrats.
I did a thing.
I mean,
So
of all the parts of a drawer to go wrong, like that's the best one because there's like somewhat of a standard, I guess, for drawer slides.
yeah. But like getting it up in there and like aligning it, was
That is a bit weird. Yeah, it's always a bit
and
awkward.
I didn't take all of her makeup and stuff out of it. So
Oh gosh.
I was like, I mean, it's gonna be heavy and awkward regardless. I'm like, whatever, I don't care. So I probably could have made it a little bit easier myself, but
so you like were holding it with all this like stuff in the drawer. Okay.
yeah.
Well, you have nobody but yourself to blame.
I
for
know.
that one.
Still,
you fixed it. Good job.
I did.
Nice.
And I beat the story mode of what I think is probably my favorite game of all time, Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah. Is this the one where you just make coffee and
You can
sit
just
by a
make coffee.
campfire?
Yeah, you can. You can.
is that
just,
part of the story?
to make
or is-
coffee?
yeah.
You don't have to, no, but it helps.
Okay.
It gives you a temporary stat boost when you drink coffee. Yeah.
Okay. So it's just like real life.
Yeah, and
You
if
get
you
a
choose to,
stat
and if you
boost.
choose to, kill a deer and make some meat with thyme, oregano, or mint, that gives you different types of stat boosts. So,
Wow.
yeah,
I saw Drew's stats drop because we got coffee right before we recorded this, and then
I got 2 coffees.
as we were about to hit like the record button, Drew goes to take a sip. And he's like, "Oh, he was out of coffee.
This
He was
one was
out of
out.
one of his coffees."
Well,
I was like, "We haven't even hit the record button yet."
We sat here for too long, and this one
We did.
went
We did.
away. So,
Well, we got that Noodler's info like right before here, so I was like, "All right, we got to work this in. We got to
Yeah.
say this here somehow."
anyway, yeah. But anyway, so I beat the story mode for the second time. It's such a good game, and it's so very immersive. But now I'm in the epilogue portion where that's also very long and drawn out. And the game never really ends. You can just keep on playing forever. So
Yeah.
I'll probably do that. But either way, just a great experience.
Coffee's not gonna make itself.
No, that's true. Very, very heartfelt though. Very emotional at the end. Yeah. Same with the Red Dead Redemption 1. Like it's it's like playing a movie. It really is.
Wow.
Those are the kind of games
pretty cool.
I'm attracted to. I really like immersive narratives.
Yeah,
That's my jam.
That's cool.
And then Felix, our new puppy, is having some like crazy allergy
Oh,
stuff.
no.
He's like scratched his like under his eyes. Like he's like the hair is gone from
no.
them. So we don't know if it's something in the grass or it's not in our house, because I remember when we were bringing him home, he was like scratching a whole lot. We talked, to the breeder and stuff like that, and she's like, no, none of the other puppies are experiencing
Pup's
this.
just having a rough go of things so far.
Yeah. So we're giving him Benadryl, on the vet's advice, but the vet doesn't know what to do. So they're like, yeah, I don't know. He's too young to be tested for this. He's too young to take this. He's too young to this. So we're kind of like, don't know what to
Ride
do.
it out, I guess.
The Benadryl seems to be making some things better. And we've had some rain recently, which is good. That's
does
calming
help.
some things down.
It does help, yeah.
So we're thinking about taking him to a little doggy specialist. But poor little guy. He's been having a rough go of things.
Man.
So we'll see. But he's still super nice. He's a super sweet dog. So
It's going to build resilience.
yeah, all in all.
Resilient
And
pup.
then we still can't get him to stop peeing on everything. And with our other 2 corgis, we never used puppy pads, with basically like things you lay on the floor that say, hey, pee here.
Right.
Which we never wanted to do, because like, why would we want to train a dog to pee in the house? Like the whole point is to not do that.
Right.
But the dog just kept on peeing in the house.
Yeah, at some
When
point
he
you're
peed
like, all right.
outside, he's like, yeah, give me a treat. This is good. I'm like, yes, this is good, right? Yes. But then he would pee inside. So he doesn't know that peeing inside is bad. So we talked to everybody we could. We brought a trainer in, and then we're like, all right, screw it. Let's put a puppy pad down. Immediately starts using the puppy pad. And then we talked to the breeder. We're like, did you use puppy pads when he was a puppy? She's like, oh yeah. You kind of have to with indoor puppies. So he was like,
You're like,
so
oh,
he
that's helpful to
remembered.
know.
Yeah, so he remembered that. So now we're like, okay, we're doing the puppy pad thing. We now need to
All right.
transition from training on the pads to going outside. So
I
that's
guess it's just like accepting reality. It's like, well, clearly like the only peeing outside is not happening.
Right.
So the puppy pad is better than peeing everywhere in the house.
right all over the universe. So
Wow.
we didn't have to do that with our other 2 dogs. So this is
Weird.
new.
Weird.
I mean, it's like no matter what, every dog's different, I
Every dog's
suppose.
different, yeah.
And then this weekend was very hot, as you know.
Oh, I'm familiar.
Yeah.
That's in one of my talking points
Yeah.
for too.
So Archer wanted to break out the old slip and slide.
Ooh, yeah.
So we did that.
Do you guys have like an actual hill? Because our struggle has always been like having a hill to.
Are you supposed to put a slip and slide on the
slide.
hill? I thought you
I mean,
were
it
supposed to put,
helps.
okay, so
Gravity works in your favor if you do.
here's the thing. we thought about that. Last year we put it on the flat part. So our backyard is on an incline.
Okay.
Decline, whatever. And so last time we put it at the base of the backyard, like where the backyard meets the deck.
Okay.
And that's kind of the flat part.
Yeah.
And Archer asked, like, hey, can we put it going downhill? So I was like, yeah, sure. And so I did, but when the hose got hooked up, I think that because the water that's supposed to kind of like create spray onto the slip and slide, it fell too fast to the bottom. It made the bottom sprayers really powerful, but the sprayers up at the top very, very weak.
Oh, so it's like really dry up top?
Right.
Oh,
yeah.
That's no good.
So we had to move it back down.
Okay. It's
But of
probably
course-
too steep of a slope, it sounds
Maybe,
like.
yeah. But then at that point, I realized that the new hose I bought, because I hated last year's hose because it crimped way too easily.
Okay.
The new hose I bought is leaking like crazy from the part that screws onto the actual spigot outside.
Okay.
Because it's got a rotating nut, which you'd think would make things easier. But no, between the nut and the actual hose itself, spraying water. I cannot find a decent hose. And this was a more expensive one.
Sounds like you have a bad gasket, or maybe the gasket fell out.
Oh my God.
Because that would do it. I have some spares, actually.
Hoses are so stupid.
I'll give you a gasket next time I come in.
I don't think that's it, but I mean, I guess that could be.
I bet it's it.
But like, I just want a hose that functions. And I don't like this one either because it's way too rigid. Like the last hose was just like a floppy noodle that would crimp every 2 seconds. This one's like, it crimps on itself because it doesn't bend or flex. It's like I can't win. Win. It's just hoses.
I'm with you. I have a lot of hoses because my parents moved and downsized their house, so they gave me like extra hoses. But like every hose I have is different.
I hate them.
Wildly different.
I hate them all. Like why can't? Yeah, like this is not advanced technology.
Yeah, you'd think we would have solved the garden hose by now.
Just plain good hose that doesn't crimp.
Drew, this is where we can crowdsource. I feel like the pen community here, as many gardeners as are in the pen community, I feel like there's some hose knowledge that we are lacking.
Please give me hose knowledge.
Please comment and help Drew get a proper hose that will ale his hose woes.
Please. I have hose woes.
Hose goes, nose grows. Yeah.
It's so like I shouldn't be stressing about a freaking hose.
No.
Like I have no time. I have no time for hose nonsense.
Yeah. Wow. I feel you on this one.
Anyway.
I had to get a hose. Rachel hates slithering creatures.
Oh,
so
yes.
I have to get hoses that don't get mistaken for any other creatures in the yard. So the hose that I have is this like fire hose. It was a bright orange hose. I was like, that can't be mistaken for anything. But it's like you said, the thing weighs like 1,000 pounds.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm dragging a fire hose across my yard every time I
got
use
this one
it.
thinking like, okay, I want to get the
crimp,
opposite of last year. Because last year it was like this thin blue thing I got from Target. This year I'm like, all right, here's this hardy.
Substantial, yeah.
Right, like if you lift it up, it stays coiled.
Yeah.
Like in the shape.
Yeah.
But
then you're like trying to unravel the thing and it's like wrestling a python.
Yes.
You know, it's
yes.
Like, I feel you.
Oh my God.
It's like you can't have it all, man. You can't have it all.
I don't ask for a lot. I really don't. I don't want it all. I just want a dang hose that doesn't cause me stress.
Somebody will help.
I'm getting hot. Like my back is hot now.
Wow. Okay. Fair enough.
I'm done.
All right.
I'm done.
Everybody help Drew in the comments. He needs a good hose. Recommend a good hose and solve his hose woes. All right. On to my nonsense. So my kids are super excited because tonight, Tuesday, as we're recording this, on Paramount Plus, Sonic Movie 2 is being streamed.
That's a good movie.
Yes, I've heard this. It's been out in the theaters for a month, but we're like not really doing the theater thing.
Yeah.
So
I'm doing it for you.
The kids have been like,
yeah,
the kids have been like, counting down. I think since they announced the day that they were going to be streaming it, they've been counting it down. We watched the first Sonic movie again this weekend to prep and get excited. Joseph dressed up as Sonic today at school. So did Ellie. She asked Rachel for red shoes and put white tape on them.
That is amazing.
They are both very excited. And they have not had it spoiled for them, whatever happens, because their friends know how badly they want to see it, but that we didn't do the theater thing.
Oh, that's so cool.
Some of their friends that they know that have seen it have not spoiled it for them.
So elementary school kids aren't as terrible as they were when we were kids.
There's hope. There's hope for this next generation. we're probably all a lost cause, and everybody before us.
That's actually
but
really
the next
cool.
generation, there's something to be said.
That's really cool.
So they're very excited. So by the time this airs, I'll probably have seen this movie like 4 times. But anyway,
Nice.
they're very excited, and I'm pretty excited too. I love Jim Carrey. He was like, goes back to the whole 90s. Like,
Yeah,
era.
and I think that he said that this is his final role. We'll see. But
Yeah.
if it is...
They've already said they're doing a Sonic movie 3. So it's like, are they going to have a different Robotnik? Like, is he not going to be... Like, he's so good in that role.
And you can tell he's having fun. That's what I love.
Yeah.
Like, he's done the whole artistic thing, and I think that these 2 Sonic movies...
He still can. He can have it all,
He just got to kind of do the Jim Carrey thing.
Yeah.
And for like kids that grew up in the 90s like us, seeing him just kind of like dance around acting like a fool.
Yeah.
I got excited about that.
It's pretty great. So yeah, we're watching that. The kids have a few more weeks of school left. Our school gets out really late. Like we start late. We start after Labor Day, which actually I didn't know that they're proposing changing that. But anyway, so they get out in like mid-June. So other kids that we know, like my niece and nephew, live in a different part of the state. They're out of school already. So our kids are still finishing up. They're doing like SOLs and all this testing and stuff like that. So they got a little bit of school left, and then they'll be out for the summer. So they're very excited about that. It was stupid hot this weekend. It was like 100 actual degrees. And then it was a heat index above that. It was something crazy, which I was like, okay, yeah, heat of the summer, sure. But I'm like, wait a minute. It's not even summer for another month. Like this is still spring. So yeah, we had like frost warnings like a couple weeks ago or last week or something like that. And now it's over 100 degrees. It's
Did
crazy.
you see what I did for lunch on Friday? Because I did not want to go outside.
No, what'd you do?
I ate an MRE from my office.
Oh my gosh.
I had my keys. I was about to walk outside.
Wow.
I didn't have a lot of time because we were shooting some video that afternoon.
Yeah.
So I was just going to have to get some fast food or something anyway. I'm like, man, if I'm going to go out just to eat garbage, I have garbage in my office that I can eat and not touch the sun.
Yeah.
So I turned right around. I'm like, all right, what do we got? And it was like
really funny.
It was like Southwest style beans with beef. So yeah,
That's
man.
like a hot meal too.
But I was inside with the AC, so it was fine. So
that's commitment right there.
I went in the break room and I was just like, all right.
MRE, for anybody who doesn't know, that's like the military rations that like they give soldiers and stuff overseas in combat.
And
that's like that's like when you have no other choice. This is the food you eat.
I've had it in my office for well over a year. It was from 2017.
I mean, it's gonna last.
Yeah,
they're made to
it's
last.
relatively new considering the MREs I've eaten in the past.
Oh gosh. Wow. You did this voluntarily as well.
Yeah, it wasn't that great.
Okay. I wouldn't think so, but
the cheese was weird.
It's meant to just sustain life. That's about it.
Not dead yet.
You're living on to fight another day here. So yeah, it was like we knew it was going to be hot coming up this weekend, and it was like oh, maybe I'll actually chill out because I work outside a lot. It's very restorative. I love
we
being
talked.
in nature.
You said oh, I'll just do some workshop stuff.
Yeah, no, I didn't do that at all. I was outside the entire weekend. I did landscaping. I did all kinds of stuff. I was in the woods for a lot of the times. It was shady, and all that kind of stuff, but it was still friggin' hot. The only problem with being in the woods is I'm really allergic to poison ivy. So I basically have to be like fully dressed. I have to wear pants, long sleeves, all that, because the skin contact really bothers my skin with that type of stuff. And it's freaking everywhere. In fact, one of the things I did was I sprayed to kill all the poison ivy that's around me, which is, there's a lot of it. So I did some of that, and I did a lot of landscaping stuff. So I was outside, basically all weekend, and I added up how much water that I drank on Saturday, which was the hottest day. I drank about 2.5 gallons of water that day. It was very hot. I was just drinking water constantly.
I mean, the crazy thing is like everybody has a frame of reference for how much that weighs.
Yeah.
Because we've all carried a gallon.
It's 8 pounds per gallon, so it's about 20 pounds of water.
Jeez.
20 pounds of water. And I didn't weigh 20 pounds more, so I was sweating out 20 pounds of water.
Oh, see, it was fine when I was thinking about 20 pounds of water, and I'm thinking of 20 gallons of sweat. Oh.
20 pounds of Brian sweat evaporating out into the atmosphere.
No.
Yeah. Anyway, so did plenty of that. I have an update to my little welding adventures. So, I've been messing around with some welding and stuff. I had a first. Gotta say, I had a first.
Oh no, did you burn yourself?
No. Oh no, I've done that a few times. Oh, okay. That's not a first. No, I went with permission. I went dumpster diving for scrap metal.
Okay.
Yeah, I pulled a bed frame out of the dumpster at the local transfer station and took it home. I brought my home trash there, and I said, that's that's not trash to me. So I asked, because it's like, steel is expensive, and a bed frame, it's just angle iron. It's just, you cut off a few pieces and you got like perfectly good angle iron. That stuff is not cheap right now. It's probably like $100 worth of angle iron if I had bought that at the store.
Sounds like a deal to me.
So I just asked the guy working the thing, I was like, hey, I'm like learning how to weld. Do you mind if I just like, it was like on the top. I didn't have to go into the dumpster. I literally just like leaned over the railing, could pull the bed rail out. But yeah, I came home and I was like, Rachel, I have a confession to make.
That was going to be my next question.
I brought home trash from the trash place. And she was like, so this is where we're at now, huh? And I was like, yeah, this is, you're married to a dumpster diver now. And then we went to a yard sale. So there was like we don't live in like a real big like neighborhood, but there is a neighborhood nearby that has, I don't know, 160 houses or something like that. So they had like a community yard sale kind of thing. Nice. So it was fun for the kids. They were able to go. They got like some like Pokemon stuffed animals for like 25 cents. And it was like great. Like they got all kinds of stuff. Ellie got some earrings and all that. I bought true to form, bought a bag of knobs, like the hardware that you would have on like they renovated their house or something, and like all the we have like the old like brass like gold knobs because our house was built in the 90s. It's all those like honey oak and gold hardware that's everywhere.
Oh yeah.
So they had all these knobs, and it was like they wanted like $10 for this bag of like 100 knobs, and I was like, I can totally use knobs. Like their knobs they're like $5-6 a piece.
I can totally use
if you
knobs.
Buy those, and they had the hinges too from all their things. So
of course,
bought knobs and hinges.
Yeah, you don't want to.
Knobs and hinges. Almost bought a trumpet because it was like their son or whatever played trumpet for like a year and then lost. And it was like pretty cheap, but I was like, no, that's like
those knobs though.
I'll buy a bag of knobs.
Oh my god!
And that bed frame. I bought a bed frame too, because they had for more scrap steel. They wanted like $5 for this.
So you this weekend you have acquired 2 bed frames.
I acquired 2. Well, the other bed frame was like midweek, but yeah, since the last Pencast recording,
you have acquired 2 bed frames.
2 bed frames.
A bag of knobs.
Former bed frames. They're not bed frames anymore. They have been cut. They're now just raw angle iron steel, whatever. So yeah. And I've actually already turned it in. I've actually already started turning one of them into something. So this is part of my adventure. It's a whole thing. And this is like all in my downtime. Like I have the whole kid thing and doing the work and all that kind of stuff. But this is like, these are the things that I do. Going back to what we were talking about at the beginning of this whole thing, it's like, I have to be doing stuff. Like,
I am so exhausted listening to you, because you started by talking about the heat, and that just makes me tired.
Yeah, all this is happening in the heat.
So, I'm dehydrated now, like just hearing you.
Well, you've drank like 40 ounces of coffee since we sat down, so that's not helping. But
and yet you're making me tired.
Yeah,
this is completely undoing any sort of caffeine energy I might have.
I come in and tell Rachel what I'm doing. She's like, I can't even listen to what you're describing that you've been doing out there. She's like, just don't even tell me. Wow. So yeah, then I where was I? Bed frames. Yeah. So I had a vision for what I wanted to do with the bed frames. So one of the things I do, I'm a woodworker. So I like to work in like, full like slab like furniture. Like I really like the natural kind of look. So you can get slabs of wood, and I got a wood guy. I know a guy who cuts like slabs of wood and stuff like that. But you can make them into like benches and coffee tables and these types of things. It's really cool. But I mean, they're really big. They're hard to work with just with normal tools. Especially if you can get it where you like cut, basically like slice out the trunk. So you get like the natural edge all around it. That's called a cookie. Mm-hmm. So if you're in the woodworking world and you're looking for cookies.
I have heard you use that term before.
I've made several like end tables and things like that out of these cookies. They're pretty cool. But the problem is it's normally when you're working with wood, you're using what's called the face grain, and you're operating off that, and it's a relatively safe way to like cut it and work with it. Well, when you're slicing a cookie out of a tree, all the fibers of the tree are standing up, and it's really actually kind of dangerous to work on that surface where it's the fibers are going up like that. It's called end grain. So it's really great for if you've ever had like butcher block, like cutting boards, or like butcher block top, like microwave stands or tables or whatever. It's really good for cutting with knives, like cutting boards. End grain cutting boards are really good because the fibers are standing up. Mm. So you're not actually slicing the fibers, you're kind of slicing in between them.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one little pro tip there for if you're not like don't care about woodworking, but if you use knives and stuff like that for cooking, end grain cutting boards are really good and they last a long time. They don't dull your knives as much. Whereas if you're using a cutting board with a face grain, you're actually like slicing the fibers of wood. You'll see deeper cuts and like more stuff can get in there and grow and all that kind of stuff. So, when you're doing woodworking, end grain is much more difficult to work with. It's more dangerous, less stable, it's harder to sand and all that. So when you're working with that, one of the ways that you can do that is you can have what's something called a router sled. So the router is like it's basically a big motor with a spinning bit on the end of it. So you can use it to like route grooves and things. You can use it to round over corners and stuff like that. But this, you can actually make, basically you have like these two like pieces of wood or metal that kind of go up around the cookie or whatever slab you're working on. And then you have these like pieces of metal that go across to create what's called a sled. And you just move the router back and forth and the bit itself cuts into the top of the wood and you do it back and forth. So rather than moving the wood across some kind of tool, you're moving your tool across the wood. Does any of that make sense?
Kinda.
Okay. Whatever, it's not important, but you can buy these things, but they're pretty darn expensive to buy, like the sled. So I'm making my own. So essentially think of like, I've got the router, it's this big motor with a base on the bottom of it. So I need like a really like long and stable like thing. And you can sort of make it out of wood, but then it can warp and all that stuff. So it's better to do it in metal. And I'm like, now that I know how to weld, I can take some like, corner like channel, the angle, whatever steel, and I can weld it into essentially a frame that the router sits in, and I can slide it back and forth, have my router sled so I can do more woodworking.
There we go.
Circle of life, right? So I'm repurposing an old bed frame that I pulled out of the dumpster so that I can make a router sled that I'm going to use to take like storm or trees that fell in storms that would have been chipped up and thrown away, but it was salvage. And I'm going to turn that into beautiful furniture. So I'm literally like taking trash and using that trash to take other trash and make it into something beautiful. That's just kind of cool. I don't know. I feel like that's a really neat thing.
You were becoming Nick Offerman.
Yeah, I'm kind of, I vibe with that.
Yeah.
I vibe with that. I saw his shop and I'm like, yep, that's kind of awesome. So I don't know. That's what I'm doing. And also, I've been trying to find more scrap metal because like metal's not the cheapest thing in the world. And when you're learning how to weld, you have to practice. And I don't have like just raw like scrap steel like laying around my house. So I got to go like find this stuff.
You do now.
I do now. I'm finding it. So I've like been asking around, and like the thing I'm learning about like welding or just like working in metal. I've been a woodworker for a long time, and like I know that world pretty well. But metal's like kind of a different thing. It's like some different tools.
You can't go
like
chop it down.
Different suppliers, people that like welding is much more industrial. Like there's a lot of welding happening in the world, and that's like much more known like world. Woodworking is much more, you have like carpentry and stuff like that in construction, but like fine woodworking is actually much smaller than like welding in general. So this is all new to me. It's like, I got to go get like bottles of argon gas and all this random stuff. And I'm like, where the heck do you get this stuff? And I'm like having to find all new suppliers. I'm like, I didn't even know that this like industrial park was here. And you go in there and it's like all people that look like they just get very dirty for a living, like dirty jobs type, careers that people are doing. And they're just welding all the time, driving like truckloads of like gas, out of there. And you're like, oh, I am not normally like in this world, but this is like a whole thing. So here I am like, oh, I'm learning how to weld. And they're like, well, what do you need? And I'm like, I don't know. What do I need? Like all the filler rod you get is all just random numbers. And I'm like, what is ER4043 filler rod?
Filler rod is.
Like, yeah, exactly. Right. So it's like all new terminology, all new stuff, but I'm excited by it. So I have a flux core welder, MIG welder. I have one of those. I've been learning that, got the hang of it pretty good, but I'm going to be getting into TIG welding now, which is like the more advanced welding. I've done a little bit of it before, so I got the taste of it, but I'm like, yeah, I want to be able to do that because then you can weld like aluminum and stainless steel, and you can weld thinner stuff. You have more control, but it takes more finesse and more practice to do it. So I'm getting a TIG welding machine, which is pretty cool, and then it also has a built-in plasma cutter, which is as cool as it sounds. Well, you know about plasma from Ghostbusters, right? Like, isn't there ectoplasm?
Well,
maybe that's not the same.
What immediately popped into my mind is that guy on YouTube that created a lightsaber.
Yes.
You've seen that, right?
Yes, I've seen that. So It's like that, but smaller. So a plasma cutter, essentially, it's you're basically you have a lightning gun. That's pretty much. So plasma is like what lightning is. So you are creating essentially a plasma, like with electricity and compressed air and some gas. You are creating essentially controlled lightning.
Nice.
It burns at about 40,000 degrees, so that you can like cut through, 1/2-inch steel and just cut through it like butter. It's very cool. So it's like you have a lightning gun. How cool is that?
That is pretty cool.
And I'm like, that's also incredibly dangerous. So I'm gonna like make sure that I am very careful and know what I'm doing. Probably won't mess with the plasma too much, but the TIG welding I'm excited to get into. So there you go. And then I found my local scrap metal supplier and just, literally just got like all kinds of random pieces of metal and already started cutting it down and using it and customizing stuff. And I'm just having a friggin' blast. And I come in and tell Rachel, and she's like, got that look on the face like you do, but much less interested. She's like, good for you, honey. I'm glad you're having fun with whatever. I don't even really understand and have any interest to learn it all. And I'm like, I'm learning cool things and I'm having fun. So yeah. And then last thing on my end, got some comments about the plants that I talked about that I planted last time. Didn't really show any pictures though. I intended to maybe share some. I didn't. I don't think I did. Right? I didn't upload any pictures.
No, because you said they were just like not really a garden, more just like
I'll make sure to include some pictures here as I'm talking about. But we got more questions about what I planted than I expected. So I'll share some pictures here. I didn't plant it's not a garden. It's basically landscaping. So it's like we already had mulch that I had done around our sunroom, and we have like some mulch around like the kids' like little play set or whatever. So like that's where I planted the stuff. So it was already kind of existing. There was good soil there and everything. But we planted some things. So I didn't like immediately post pictures because the pictures I took, I didn't really take for the Pencast. I just took pictures and it has like my house in it and stuff like that. And I don't really like taking pictures of my house because that's weird. I don't want people to stalk me. So I'll take some pictures that show the plants, but show less of what else I have going on so that I can.
You don't want people to actually know you live in a cardboard box.
Yeah, I like.
It's just a cardboard box surrounded by like 100 sheds. Full of
so I've got a
welding equipment and scrap metal.
my buddy who I cut trees down with, he was like, oh yeah, he's like, so you did the dumpster diving thing. He's like, it's not going to be long before you end up with like random like furniture and like old stuff just like collecting in your yard.
Oh,
and I was like,
man.
I think I'm already there. I've got some edges of the woods where it's kind of hidden by foliage that Rachel can't really see what's going on there. And I'm like, I have an old like aluminum like pergola that my sister took down.
A what?
A pergola.
What's a pergola?
It's like, it was basically like aluminum.
Well, the Virginia really came out on that one.
No, it's like aluminum. It really did.
Yeah, pergola.
It's like, I don't know how to describe what it is, but it's, it's got poles and then like cross beams and stuff. And it had like sort of a tarp of some kind. So it's like they had it over their deck. So it provides like
some sort of shade structure. Okay.
Yeah, like a shade structure, but the thing like broke or whatever. So they had just like all the legs and stuff, but it's just like, it's a lot of aluminum. And it was like, oh, this is, I could probably like repurpose this for something. This is a while ago. So I was going to take it to the dump for them because I have a pickup truck. And then it was like, I feel bad just throwing this out. Maybe I could use this for something. And it's just like been sitting at the edge of my woods. I don't even know that Rachel knows that I still have it there. So I'm like, I'm already like ashamedly hoarding literally garbage to like repurpose and weld it and stuff. I don't know. It's weird, but this is what I'm doing. I'm enjoying it. So yeah, I'll put some pictures of the plants. Some of the stuff we planted, hydrangeas, some hostas, some lilies, which has been fun. Lavender, carnations, a few other flowers, random stuff that my mom gave me. I don't know what it is. The thing I will say is that we have some kind of animal that's like going after some of these plants. Not in ways I would expect. They're not like eating the flowers or whatever. They're like digging it up from underneath. So we have some kind of like moles or rabbits or something that's digging. Cause I have like one lily that like has shrunk like 10 inches. It just like literally is like, it was like pulled down into the ground.
It's like Bugs Bunny when he pulls the carrots down from underneath.
Yeah. Like there's a few of the flowers where it's like, or one, it's like completely like kind of fallen over. And I go and look at it and I'm like, these roots are like entirely exposed. I'm like, something got into this, but it wasn't like going for flowers and whatnot. It was like, I don't know if it, whatever.
Maybe it's just traveling. I don't know.
Yeah. So I've like put it back and it keeps happening. So I'm like, there's like all these holes there and it's like, I've seen frogs in the holes. I'm like, are these frogs that are doing this? There's a lot of nature that happens where I live. So it's like, I don't know what these animals really are. They're all very skittish and I don't see them much. But there's definitely something that's going after some of these plants. And I'm like, this is going to be my life, isn't it? And they're just going to like be battling the animals. So Anyway, I'm surprised all hostas haven't gotten eaten by deer because I know that deer like hostas, but I figured maybe they're close to my house. The deer won't want to like go close to the house, but I know it's like dessert to them. So we'll see. I might take these pictures and then be like, oh, I remember the time when I had plants. That was fun. Never doing that again.
They're gone now.
Yeah, we'll see. It'll just all be monkey grass. That's the only thing that I know that will grow without fail. It's monkey grass. Can't kill it. Anyway, so there we go. That's what we got. Got a little bit of company updates. So let's do that. All right, so we don't have a whole lot to talk about in here, but we are going to be closed on Monday for Memorial Day. Our site will still be up and all that. You can still buy stuff. But yeah, in the U.S., at least if you're not in the U.S., Memorial Day is a day that we celebrate all of our fallen soldiers, military personnel. So thank you to everybody and their families who have sacrificed for our country. So that's what we'll be celebrating for. We'll be closed, but you can still watch all of our stuff and shop to your heart's content. So anyway, that's basically the updates that we have for right now. And then I think we can go ahead and wrap this thing up. Well, that's all we got for you this week. We want to thank you all for watching. Please leave us some feedback. Let us know how we're doing. Give us any questions or any pens that you want to see. We did get some good suggestions last time, so we're good for the next couple of weeks, but we would always love to see more. Definitely go check out gouletpens.com. You can see all the things that we talked about here and lots of other cool stuff. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Instagram, share it all, whatever. It's all good. You can also email us at pencast@gouletpens.com, especially if you're an audio listener and you do not feel like going to a whole other medium to post your questions or whatever. Well, I guess you're going to another medium anyway by email. So either way, leave us a comment on YouTube or send us an email. My random fact for today, Drew, is related to cereal. You know, we were feeling nostalgic and I was thinking like cereal. That was a big part of my childhood.
Oh, sure.
Still part of my adulthood, actually.
Oh, yeah. I had some cereal this morning.
Yeah. What was your go-to cereal as a kid?
As a kid?
Yeah. What was your what was the cereal you had the most, and what was the cereal that you like always wanted but very rarely got?
Ooh, I wanted but very rarely got would be a lot of them. Like I always wanted Lucky Charms, Captain Crunch with the Crunch Berries.
Okay.
And then Cocoa Pebbles.
Oh, okay.
Cocoa Pebbles.
Yeah.
So those are all very rare cereals.
Okay. You get like the mixed pack, like if you go on vacation.
Oh yeah,
or something,
like
get like the small boxes.
Recently, I've been looking. Shannon and I have been looking at calories and sugar content on cereal.
Yeah,
and
it's all
different. Bad.
It's not much. Yeah,
it's all
pretty bad. Yeah.
Like Lucky Charms and Frosted Flakes are identical.
Yeah.
And like I would like obviously Frosted Flakes are covered in sugar, but I still thought Lucky Charms would be worse, but they're not.
No.
So yeah, it's all garbage.
Yeah.
But no, the one I had the most. Oh man, I don't even remember. It was all off-brand stuff. But maybe we always had Corn Flakes, always had Cheerios. Honey Nut Cheerios, pretty common.
Pretty staple.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cheerios was like kind of my go-to. I had
Yeah.
a lot of Corn Flakes as well.
Yeah.
But I think Cheerios would be my like standby. I still eat Cheerios.
Yeah.
I ate some Cheerios this morning.
This morning for me, it was a Special K with almonds.
Oh, how grown up. That seems like a grown up cereal.
Well, I also have a box of strawberry Pop-Tarts in the pantry.
Oh,
so
nice.
If you asked me yesterday, it would have been strawberry Pop-Tarts. So
Okay.
Don't give me all the credit.
I heard somewhere that this is not the random fact. We're getting there. This is not the random fact, but I heard that like one of the top selling items at Walmart, at least, whenever there is like a hurricane or some natural disaster, is strawberry Pop-Tarts. It's like one of the things that they intentionally stock up on because they know it's in such high demand. Like that and beer and like baby formula. You know, I'm like, well, okay, that's,
Pop-Tarts.
at least that's in there. Yeah. My go-to cereal that I never got was Corn Pops.
No, we had a lot of Corn Pops.
Very rarely got them. I don't know. I just never, it wasn't something my parents got. And Cookie Crisp.
They're kind of weird. Corn Pops get slimy.
They do get slimy.
Yeah. It's kinda weird.
Because I ate them so rarely, I think it was still novel to me every time. But then if I ate it more, I would probably get sick.
Yeah. Yeah. We never got Cookie Crisp either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It wasn't even good. I don't know. I just liked the idea of it.
It's a cookie wand.
It's a cookie, yeah. But anyway, my fun random fact is about cereal. That's why I brought all this up. It is about Fruit Loops. Did you know that every flavor of every color of Fruit Loops is the same flavor? They're not different flavors.
I did.
I didn't know that.
To me, they all taste like Earl Grey tea.
Okay.
Whenever I smell Earl Grey, I think Fruit Loops.
You think Fruit Loops?
Yeah.
I think you're the first I've heard that said that. I don't know.
They know.
What's y'all's favorite cereal? What's your go-to cereal? Either as a kid or now, as a not kid, assuming you're not a kid. But anyway, let us know what you think. That is the Turkey Hammock Zone.
Yay!
It's talking about cereal. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. We will see you on episode number 48. Right on.